Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on April the 3rd, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the second biggest curmudgeon I know.
Caffeine Rage. I'm not sure if I should feel slighted or take that as a challenge. I feel conflicted.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played. Lootboxes. Drops come in, drops come out. Can't explain it. Big Fish Casino video game constitutes illegal online gambling, a federal appeals court rules. Valve removes its Steam machines from the Steam storefront. Faeria goes pay to play. Fortnite removes 30 FPS mode from consoles. We're going to have our weekly community quarter with an audio letter from Kyle and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
I say as if we haven't been talking for nearly an hour, despite the fact that we got a slightly late start.
Well, hopefully we don't have I don't think we have a cutoff time tonight, so we should be okay.
No, Katie's sick, so, well, sick-ish. She's got a doctor's note, so she's not working for a few days. Which is good.
So she has an excuse.
Yeah, she has an excuse.
Unlike us, because there is no excuse for us.
Also, happy Easter to people who celebrate the holiday of Easter, which was over the weekend. Happy weekend to people who don't. So there, I'm all-inclusive.
How modern of you. How current year of you.
How current? Yeah. What year is it? So I've been looking for a backup solution to create some additional hard copy backups of things like family photos and movies because, you know, I have a family. And the cheapest and easiest...
How dare you rub that in my face?
I know. And the cheapest and easiest solution is to just use a big old stack of DVDs I've had sitting around for years. I've got like 30 of them here. And even if DVDs become an irrelevant storage medium in the next 5 years or so,
there'll still be drives around.
Yeah, there'll still be plenty of drives.
The drives are going to disappear off the market.
Yeah, and I do intend to update my backups every 5 or so years anyways.
So do you have something off-site as well?
Not right now, but I'm going to get a safety deposit box.
I was about to say, get a deposit box or something to back up stuff to.
And then I'm probably going to make another copy and like send it to my parents' house or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I've got all the DVDs. Why the hell not? But yeah, I spent the last, well, not the last couple of days, but some time over the last couple of days burning DVDs. And I posted a tweet yesterday. It was like, I spent the last hour burning stuff to disk. What year is it?
It's the current year.
Because I haven't used a disk for anything in forever. I think 2 or 3 years ago, I put a copy of Windows 7 on a disk because there was a PC I was trying to put Windows on, and for some reason it wasn't booting off of the USB or booting off the flash drive. I just was like, screw it, I'm just going to put this on a disk.
Yeah, I think the last time I did was last year. I was cleaning out my anime download folder, and there was a few shows I wanted to keep, so I split them into a couple of DVDs.
Yeah.
Which, that's not exactly an ideal solution because video files are pretty damn big to begin with. Granted, I typically only watch 720p unless it's a show that is just fucking beautiful, but typically there's not that big a difference on the majority of anime to warrant the size differential. So I just go 720p for a quick download and watch it like that.
Yeah.
But that's really been the only time because most of the stuff we get these days is all digital, and that actually tends to be a problem at times because, we don't have this on the docket, but one of the Game Club games that we have on the potential docket got removed from Steam.
Yeah, weren't there a couple that did? Or was it just
it was a couple in the series, the Call of Juarez series.
Right.
And one of them was digital only.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much just leaving it to the pirates now.
Yeah,
and we don't really know why they pulled it, but yeah, not having hard copies is going to be a problem in gaming in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. I think all digital has more pros than cons, but nothing is ever perfect. So, yeah. But at least with this, family photos and videos, I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, maybe
like I've got
a secondary solution. Not don't stop doing the DVDs, but have it as a secondary copy. But
that's the idea.
Just a fucking massive hard drive. And if you're not accessing it, a hard drive should last a while.
Yeah,
have
I've actually got an
external hard drive. Back it up there, and put that in the safety deposit box as well. Occasionally.
Yeah, I've got a 2 terabyte external drive that's not really getting used for anything. That I want to do some other stuff with it, so that's why I went for the disk solution instead of just copying everything to the hard drive. But I do have 2 other external hard drives, but they get used constantly. Well, at least one of them does. I've got 8 terabytes of hard drives sitting here just to my right. External hard drives. They get used for all kinds of stuff. One of them is just full of movies that I've ripped.
And about half of that's porn.
I've ripped our entire DVD collection and Blu-ray collection, and then my parents' entire DVD and Blu-ray collection. And then every once in a while, I'll go to the library and get a few movies and rip those. And, you do that enough times, and suddenly you've got 3 terabytes of ripped movies.
And you're also on the do not rent list on the library.
No, they don't mind. I always bring it back on time. They're always like, "Did you enjoy your movies?"
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We had a family movie night.
Yeah, I love that movie with the person doing the thing.
Yep, had a family movie night. It was great.
Yeah, my local library system sucks. But that may be a consequence of just how the state is made here because... Oh, okay, quick question. How many counties are in your state? This is something I haven't really looked into, actually.
A lot? I think there's 96 counties is my guess.
In mine. But the population of my state is a lot lower.
95 counties. Damn, I was close.
Yeah, but see, you have several major cities.
Yeah, Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville.
Yeah, the most populated county here would be Kanawha, which I would guess would be about probably 90,000 population, and that's being probably generous. So there's not a lot of people in the local library system, and I'm not in Kanawha County, so that's even worse. So the library system is getting a very small portion of a very small budget, so they don't have a lot of money behind them to get books. And it's West Virginia, so yeah.
Yeah, I've got 6.72 million people living in Tennessee. How many people are living in West Virginia? 1.82 million.
With a comparable number of counties. I mean, it's not that far off 95-55 or 96-55 when you're looking at population numbers like that.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the census portion of the podcast.
Yeah, so what do you think about them putting the citizenship question on the census?
Oh, God. Let's not head down that rabbit hole. We're going to be talking specifically about some politics later anyway, so.
Oh, boy. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I've made several dollars, though, on MTurk in the last week, answering political surveys, though, so that's nice. Like $3.
Oh, so you've been following my footsteps.
Yeah, that was a great thing. Great idea. Most of them are pretty short.
Yeah, it's actually a fairly decent way to get a few bucks. And plus you get to say just how much you hate Trump and get paid for it.
Yeah. It's not a lot, but I say it for free all the time, so. Free to play. I played some free games this week on my phone. Did you play any games this week? And if so, what are they?
Wow, you really suck at transitions.
Yeah, I did it that bad on purpose. We've been talking about
really, I couldn't tell
games for several minutes. So let's talk about the games we played this week, Rach.
Okay, well, I played several games this week, and let's start off with something that would have been a lot more appropriate for me to talk about last week, but I didn't have the review code yet. Make Sale, which sounds like a very bad Google Translate a job on a title, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, well, this is a... what is the proper term for somewhere between a sim and an arcade? A simcade title?
I guess. Yeah, that works.
Okay. Essentially, this is an open world exploration game making sailboats and sailing around with a Kerbal-like building system on top of it.
Okay. Sounds all right.
Yeah, it's a little jank right now. Well, the world doesn't have a lot to do in it yet. It's just released into early access last week. It released into early access last Friday. And I didn't get code for it till after podcast time. You wake up in the middle of this just maelstrom, and it talks about the chimes that prevent the world from getting blown away or whatever have been stolen. You need to go recover them. And you have to build a sailboat and sail around to various islands and recover the charms and bring them back to the central island to essentially push back this just fucking massive storm. It's a bit tedious. There's not a lot to do in the game yet, but the sailing mechanics are actually pretty solid in this. I would say it probably beats Sea of Thieves in its sailing mechanics. For one, the wind system actually works. There's no sailing into the wind without the proper sails at all. And it does support tacking into the wind with a triangular sail, which you can see on the screenshots there.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty impressive, and it also simulates drag properly. So if you build a boat that is really wide or has a lot of things jutting off of it, it will slow you down. Granted, there's not a reason to worry about that just yet. The developer has been talking about putting things like sharks in the game and proper obstacles. But for the time being, it's not that important. You just sail around and do your own thing, which is not a bad thing. I did mention that the building system is a little jank. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. This uses the Kerbal system where everything is in modules, little chunks of the boat that you snap together like Legos. I'm not sure if there's a better way to describe that than that, but what the hell. And every piece has nodes on it, just like how Kerbal has it, where, how they snap together properly.
Yeah.
Well, some parts only have one or two nodes on each face. So, like the boat hulls, you could only really snap together one way. And they'll have attachment nodes on the side to be able to snap them together that way. On smaller pieces like masts or the logs that you could use as outriggers or to hold up other things, the nodes on them are so close together that it's very, very difficult in the current build to be able to say which node you're going to get until you attach. So you end up getting a lot of trial and error, and you get a lot of things not wanting to snap together just right because everything is so tight together, particularly on mast logs, that sort of thing, that it kind of does almost Z-fighting-ish, where it's quickly going to be between 2 or 3 nodes, which is a little frustrating, especially because it simulates drag properly, so if that is underwater, it's going to create even more drag. And there's not like I said, a lot to do in this game. You pretty much sail around, you go to an island, or you sail past an island and see if there's anything to pick up on the island. If there isn't, you continue sailing, and you're in this giant hurricane, essentially, with layers. It's an onion cane.
Okay.
So as you collect the chimes and return them to the central island, it pushes back the hurricane in a layer. So the first chimes are right near the central island. So you sail out, and because of the wind, you're pretty much just going around in a circle, unless you're lucky enough to get a triangular sail. I wasn't able to find one. It may just be the fact that this is a semi-procedurally generated world. All the islands are handcrafted, and the loot nodes on them are placed by hand, but then it's randomized. Yeah, essentially a very of the chunk-based procedural generation. And I didn't get lucky enough to find a triangular sail. It may just have been on an island that I didn't see because of how the things are set up. But you sail out, hit the chimes, you go back to the middle, and you turn them in, and it pushes back the winds. And then you sail out again. And it's a satisfying loop, but this is a podcast game, at least right now. There's not a lot of really what you consider a survival element to it. Even though the game does bill itself as, survive an ocean of storms and beasts. Well, so far, the only beasts in the game are these, floating blimp fish that you can actually hook onto with a tether and have them drag you around. And there's jellyfish that you could have zap your ship to actually get energy. There is a way to propel your ship without sails. There's jets and propellers, but they use an energy source that is limited. And you could get a energy vacuum that you could put on your ship to essentially suck energy from a jellyfish. It's not a primary propulsion source. It's more, okay, I'm nearly there. I just need to push myself a little bit further. I'll drop my sails and use the propeller to coast in. That sort of thing. Assuming, of course, you don't have the proper sails, because, like I said, it's all about ship design. And I could actually see this getting a bit of a following behind it like Kerbal has. Granted, this isn't as out there as Kerbal, where it's, orbital mechanics. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket surgery. But I could definitely see, people that are into sailing get really into this game, particularly just because of the building mechanics. And there's actually a lot of variants that you could do already. You could see a few of them in the screenshots of this game. And you also get blueprints that is essentially a blueprint of a ship design that you could just then... I don't like how it doesn't have sails here and here instead. And your sail placement actually does matter for this as well. Because first time I put the sails slightly too far back on the ship, and it caused me not to be able to turn as well. So it's really it's a lot deeper than it looks right now. But the thing is that there's not a lot to do yet. So it's Sea of Thieves, only cheaper.
Nice. Although it sounds like there's more content, since you can actually build and customize a ship.
You can build and customize the ship, and there's an actual progression system, because as you push back the storm, it unlocks... Well, for one, it does... There's two progression chains in this game so far. You have the primary progression chain, which is the chimes, which are pushing back the storm. But you also get occasionally you find a item that says, okay, this is a blueprint for this ship. In order to build this ship, you need these parts, and it marks the parts on the map. And sometimes they're in the storm, and you don't get to go for them until later. But it gives you a progression and a list of places to go. So I guess it beats Sea of Thieves there, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. More content.
And this is single player focused, and they have said that they are not doing multiplayer, which I don't have a problem with. This, I think, just sailing around the lonesome ocean by yourself could be a very liberating feeling. Not having to worry about 12-year-old pirates cussing you out.
Yeah. Anyways.
Overall, I'm impressed with it. It does have performance problems right now. Granted, my system isn't the best, but the recommended specs on this is calling for a quad-core i7. So they definitely need to do some optimization. That's the primary reason why this wasn't the Sunday sampler, was that I wasn't able to get a very high frame rate with this. It was good enough to be able to play, but the recording tax on top of everything just started to dip it down to the point where I didn't want to deal with it. And also, your sailor has probably the worst swimming ability of any sailor in history, including Popeye. He could swim for approximately 15-20 seconds, and then he drowns.
It's not a lot of swimming.
Yeah, granted, you typically don't have to swim that far, but if you forget to drop your sails like I did once, I dropped them most of the way, but either didn't have them down all the way, or I just had enough coasting that my ship got carried too far that, I drowned trying to get back to it. And at first I was thinking, okay, maybe I just hit a button or something and I dove under the water. No. You have a very, very limited, essentially hidden stamina bar. I'm not sure if that increases over time, but I'm going to assume not. Granted, most islands have a building spot, and that's where the game also saves. So typically what I would do is I would come into essentially port at an island, pull into the building spot, and save there. And that's the only place that you can save, by the way. That's essentially a checkpoint system. Hit there, then do whatever the island has to do, and then essentially rebuild the ship just to turn it around and sail off again. So that is something that could be done a little bit better, in my opinion. And also something, really the only obstacle the game has right now is that some islands, after the third tier, essentially, for lack of a better term, the third ring of the storm, has a tether on them that will lock onto your ship and shoot it. And typically it goes after your sails and tries to knock them off. Usually you're close enough, though, that you just swim to shore, pick up the tether, which actually is a part that you could use on your ship, and then just rebuild the ship there. But if you are just too far out, or it hits you, or if you just glance it as you're sailing away, I could easily see it where it caught you just at the wrong time. Or there was a couple times that instead of hitting my sail, it kind of clipped the ship and kind of broke it in half. It went all Titanic on me. And the ship actually does have a proper buoyancy system as well, which is rather impressive. The building mode shows a meter that shows your overall ship density, and it shows the density of the water, and it gives you an idea really well of just how well your ship will float without having to do trial and error. So it does beat Kerbal on that front. But the tether, I could definitely see the tether islands causing problems if you clip them while you're sailing away and it sinks you, because you only had so much of a limited time that you may drown before you even realized what happened. But that's pretty easily negated just by watching what island you're going towards and not really, pulling in front of an island that you haven't explored. There's no way to really mark which islands that you've explored, though. That's something I would also like to see is they have a very basic waypoint system, but no way to really take notes on the islands. And because there's so many of them, it could sometimes, unless you're just sitting in essentially a tier of the storm, or where the storm was, because you don't want to go where the storm was. That's bad. If you stay in a tier and pretty much just make a circumnavigation of the clock face, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, and pretty much tick off all the islands, you could get a situation where you have a dangerous island that you didn't explore and essentially make safe. But this is one to watch if you're into sailing. So I think I pretty much sold this to Kyle.
Sold it to me too.
But yeah, it's not bad. It's definitely one to watch. And if they do some optimization, this is one I'm going to come back to at some point. And they're already done one update where they've fixed a few things. And they've also made it where the drowning pretty much instantly takes you back to the last checkpoint instead of forcing you to sit there and watch you kind of tread water. And one last thing is that sometimes it's a little bit annoying trying to get on the boat. You have to find just the right place, but it looks like they patched that already. I haven't tried it, though. It's been rather impressive, though. I mean, it's not a very deep system. It's very Kerbal-esque on its simulation front, but overall, not bad.
Sweet. What else did you play this week?
Okay, so next up on the list is Mini Metro. This was on the Humble Bundle that I picked up last week for really a Game Club game in the future. And this is one I decided just to try out and ended up losing a couple hours to. This game is essentially the equivalent of digital crack without the one more turn syndrome. Maybe this just hit some sort of thing for me because of City Skylines also having this similar quality of sitting there and optimizing things. So Mini Metro is essentially, this is mostly a mobile game, and you can definitely feel the mobile-esque aspect of it where it's very simplistic and it's using just essentially the mouse. But you are building a metro or a subway system and trying to make it as efficient as possible without having too much backup on your system. And it sounds very mundane and it sounds very boring, but it's one of those things that once you sit down and start playing it, you look up and it's like, when did the sun come up? There's a handful of maps, each with their own challenges, essentially, because they're based on real-world situations. So you'll have different river crossings or different, islands for New York or London, that sort of thing. And the entire idea is just really making a metro system and also trying to streamline it as much as you can by adding more trains to a particular line that is getting overrun or is feeding other lines, because all the passengers, there's different stations, so there's different types of stations. There's squares, triangles, circles, that sort of thing. And a passenger wants to go to a particular type of station, not a particular station in general. So if you have a line that has all triangles, for example, by some weird coincidence, because I think it goes circle, square, triangle, then unique symbol, which is stars, pentagons, that sort of thing. So if you have a passenger that wants to go to a circle, but it doesn't have a circle on that line, they'll take the train to a station and hop another line to go to to the proper station. A very simplistic way of doing proper management on a proper route. But it requires a lot of... I didn't get what they were doing at first because there's no real tutorial. It's just kind of throwing you in, and it's one of those games that you discover as you play. And I didn't realize what the symbols actually meant on the passengers for a moment. For probably the first game, and I lost horribly because I didn't build the lines to have a variety of symbols on them. But it's one of those games that it's so tough to describe because it's a pure gameplay experience, you know?
Yeah. I've had my eye on Lifeline, or not Lifeline, Mini Metro for a while. I'm gonna be talking about Lifeline briefly when it's my turn, but I've had my eye on Mini Metro for a little while, and I got the Humble Bundle as well, so I have it, but I haven't played it yet.
Well, I fired it up while I was rendering because it's also a very, very light game. And, this is pretty much my mobile game for the week, only it's not the mobile version. It is on mobile. But
yes, it is. It's, I think, 99 cents on mobile.
Yeah, I would say that it would be a really, really, really good tablet game.
I don't know. Normally it's $5. It looks like it's on sale right now on at least the Google Play Store.
Yeah, which, Mini Metro on Steam has this Steam sales tax, or the PC tax, it's double the price. But considering we got it for $1.
Yeah. Less than that when you factor in the other games.
But yeah, it's a very fascinating title. It's a little tough to really describe without sitting down and going into the nitty gritty of it, which I really don't want to, because it's one of those that you really need to experiment with.
Right.
I definitely agree with some of the tags on this. It's a casual game, but then it's not. Because you start figuring out, okay, I built this line incorrectly because this line doesn't have a variety of things on it, so I need to essentially tear down everything and rebuild the entire system, which you're not penalized for. As a matter of fact, you're kind of encouraged to do so. If you're trying to just adjust your lines as you go, you are going to hit a problem. Because as the days wear on, you'll get more and more stations added to your system that you have to incorporate. And also on every week, you get an additional milestone. So you may get another train that you could add to any line. Every line starts with one train. But if you have a line that's stretched out, you can see where one train is no longer adequate. So you drop another train on it, and it eventually spaces out so that both trains are spaced so that they're a fair distance apart to try to alleviate the wear or alleviate the buildup on the line. And then you can add an additional carriage to it, so you have an additional train car. You slowly add more lines. You add more tunnels to go under rivers. It's very addicting, but also very fun. Shallow, but deep enough that it doesn't feel like I'm just wasting my time doing nothing. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah. I'll maybe check that out sooner rather than later. Then.
Yeah, I mean, this may have also hit a certain place for me because I've been dealing with City Skylines and trying to figure out the fucking traffic in that game. And this isn't as broken. Granted, City Skylines you can eventually fix with enough mods and enough fiddling with it, but this just works. So if you want that, kind of City Skylines-esque feel, but not want to have to deal with the whole City Skylines thing, then here you go.
Sweet. What else you got?
Okay, well, this is going to be a short one. Dungeon Gambit Boy. This is essentially low-rent Super Meat Boy. But I put it on here and not skip it because this game, for a while I was playing it, I couldn't really put my finger on what was bugging me. And then, as I was platforming, I realized what was bugging me about it. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of the lower budget, the very low tier platformers do that I haven't really realized is that this game has a fixed jump height. And I don't mean that I don't mean that as in you only have a certain limit. I mean, you hit the jump button, no matter how long you hit it, you jump that height. Period. There's no adjustment to it. And I was having a lot of trouble with some of the puzzles because of it. Until I realized, wait, even if I tap the jump button, he does a full jump. It was a kind of, that's why I'm having trouble with this? And this is published by Groupies, which is another indie bundle site. Typically, they have the more low-rent bundles. Usually there's one thing that's good in them, then a lot of meh. And this is definitely in that category. This isn't a bad game, but it definitely has that feel of being a very low-rent game. There are things in it that I like, though. It's just the platforming aspect, it's very frustrating because of that fixed jump height. So things that should be a lot easier puzzle-wise or puzzle platforming-wise is a lot more difficult. Matter of fact, there's a good example of it on one of the screenshots where there's an alternate route, and a lot of the levels actually do have alternate routes of a very tight corridor with spikes. And this is, Super Meat Boy-esque, where you go in and you die repeatedly and slowly improve yourself to get through the level. Well, because of how they have the jump system in this game, it's a lot more difficult to get through tight corridors like that because you're always doing the full jump. You see where I'm going with this? Where it's a lot of the precision is gone out of this game because you're lacking that fine-tuning of jumping. It's like if Mario always did one type of jump and there was no real way to guide him, which this game also, it's not a fully momentum-based game. You can start and stop. This isn't full Super Meat Boy. But there's a lot of sections where you have to go pretty much full speed to be able to make a jump properly. But it feels very sluggish. And also this game has some of the slowest ladder climbing that I've ever seen. Unless I'm just doing it wrong. Because if climbing a ladder feels like a quarter of the speed that it should be in this game, it's just so fucking sluggish. When most of the time whenever I encounter a ladder, I would just wall jump up it instead. Or wall jump beside it. Because it was just so damn sluggish. And something else that kind of annoyed me in this game was that, you can see on a couple of the screenshots, whenever you die, it gives you the chapter and the level. Well, it does that no matter how many times you died. And sometimes they had an enemy behind that card at the very beginning of a level. And so there was a couple times that I was dying pretty quickly and I didn't realize what was going on. There was a bat hiding just above me, and I had to pretty much immediately step to the left and then jump over it. But I couldn't see it at first, which is a dick move.
Yeah, that's a super dick move.
I mean, this isn't I want to be the guy. I want to actually have a chance in this game. But it's also priced right in the budget range, so it's not a case of a high-budget title or, a high-price title that's really a $5 title that's, priced in the $15, $20 range. So, it's, if you want to try a Super Meat Boy X title and you don't want to wait for Super Meat Boy to get on sale, well, here you go. Or if you played Super Meat Boy and want something a little bit more jank for some reason.
Maybe somebody just likes janky things.
Like you?
As long as it's not broken.
I mean, this isn't broken. It requires a certain approach to, especially the platforming. And probably the best example I could give for the reason why the jumping feels so weird is that occasionally there's, it's usually a bat, but there's a couple other enemies that does it as well. That if you get close to them, they'll start following you around. And you touch them, you die. I mean, pretty much standard for this type of game. Well, because of how the jumping system works, if they catch you in a very shallow corridor or with a low ceiling, you're pretty much doomed unless you're in a very particular spot or they're coming at you pretty much straight on instead of above you. Because there's no way to try to just sneak past them. You'll just hit your head and be forced back down. This game is more, kind of me discovering why some of these low-budget platformers feel so off at times. And it's given me a way to really test a platformer whenever I play it. So if I play a platformer and I tap the jump button, and no matter how quickly I tap it or how much I hold it, I jump the same height, well, that tells me that there's a particular type of platforming involved now. It's something I didn't really give much mind to. So thank you to Gambit Boy for that. Give me a new litmus test on shitty platformers.
Yay?
What?
I guess. I mean, I don't really like platformers, so.
Well, how about a game that you'll probably will like?
Okay.
Steamworld Dig 2. This is the new series on my channel. This is the sequel to the original Steamworld Dig that I covered 2 years ago, almost exactly now. And this is Torchlight 2 syndrome all over again, where the first game was had a very solid base to it, but you were pretty much stuck in a single theme and a single feel of the game, and just it was a slow grind. This, in the first 3 hours, I've gone through 3 different themes of levels, and just the change of feel to the game and the change of music has kept it a lot fresher than what Steamworld Dig 1 was in the very beginning. So they've learned their lesson a lot from the original game. This, for those who don't know, Steamworld Dig, and Steamworld Dig 2 by extension, is a mining, platforming Metroidvania game, where you're essentially creating a Metroidvania level as you're digging down to this mine system, getting loot, going back to town, selling it to get upgrades, to dig further down to the mine to unlock more static levels. The placement of the original gems is semi-procedural, they're randomized, and then you dig down, get them, go back, and you eventually find caves and levels that are static, that are essentially a puzzle platformer section. And usually they're some sort of upgrade at the end or a new ability. For example, the tutorial dungeon, at the end of it, you get the ability to dash. Then you'll get the ability to, one of the later ones I got is actually a hook shot to be able to latch onto things and be able to Spider-Man your way around the level. Not full-on Spider-Man, it's not swinging, but yeah, close enough. But it's a very satisfying Metroidvania, or a very satisfying take on the Metroidvania genre, where you're given a fair amount of freedom to really approach the game how you want, to some degree. You still have to go through and unlock your abilities in a somewhat certain order, but you also have the ability just to skip levels unless it has an ability that you have to progress. Like the hook shot is pretty much a requirement, but you're not quite forced into it, but you're encouraged to go into that cave. And that cave is pretty much straightforward. I mean, there's not a lot of puzzling there. And the big change for this game over the original is a full point-based upgrade system. So as you level up, for one, you get a multiplier on your gems. So as you level, you quickly start getting more and more money. But you also unlock, or you also find in the mines and also have the ability to buy what's called upgrade cogs, which as you level up, you unlock more abilities and more things that you can buy in the store. But also, as you upgrade your systems, let's say upgrade your pick, for example, to deal more damage to dirt, resources, and enemies, it may also unlock an ability to say, the first one is with, I believe it's 2 upgrade cogs. It gives you 5 more XP per enemy killed with that weapon. Or the grenade launcher, for example, is another one, a sticky bomb launcher. That for one of the upgrades is for every tile it destroys, it gives you back some water, which not all your abilities, but a good number of your powered abilities uses water to create steam because it's Steamworld Dig. All the bots are steam powered. So there's an incentive to go puzzle platforming, but if you're good enough, or if you wish to skip it, you can, and you can just grind it out if need be. But it's a Metroidvania style game, so you do want to go exploring. This is an exploration game. And I talked about the Torchlight 2 syndrome, just the fact that you see so much diversity, and the fact that it has an overworld makes the game feel a lot fresher. It doesn't wear out its welcome nearly as quickly as the original Steamworld Dig. Any questions thus far?
So far, nope. I'm good.
You could dig it?
I dig it.
A couple complaints about it. The platforming is a little... It's not as jank as Dungeon Gambit Boy, but it does take some getting used to because it's very... I'm trying to think of the good way to explain this. There's not a lot of ability to adjust yourself in the air. You could change directions, but that's it. So your momentum is still carried over. So there's a couple... well, there was one section that I recorded just last night where I had to hit a series of platforms that boosted me up, jumping platforms. Well, I hadn't really had a section like that before, so I was having a little bit of trouble because it required me to pretty much not try to go over to the next one until I hit the apex of my jump. Because if I would try to go before and I would overshoot it, I would try to divert back. But I kept missing that way as well because I had too much momentum overall. It's a little bit of a weird system. But you're not jumping that much in this game. A lot of this game is... Well, I shouldn't say jumping like that. You're doing a lot of wall jumping, a lot of wall climbing, a lot of digging. There are combat sections in this game, but you're mostly grounded. You have your grenade launcher. You have your pick for your melee combat. But a lot of it is just digging and finding resources. And overall, so far, I've enjoyed it. I'm put about 4 or 5 hours in this game so far. I'm not exactly certain how long this is overall, but I will be talking about it once I complete the game. But I feel like it's pretty much a flat improvement over the first one. And this is also supposed to be a bridge between the first one and also Steamworld Heist, which is the sort of turn-based... I shouldn't say turn-based XCOM, because a 2D XCOM like game.
Yeah, we know something like that.
Well, 2D XCOM as in side-scroller.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That's actually been on my list to play for a while, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. But I got review code for this and decided to try out and was rather impressed with it. The movement systems overall feels a lot smoother than the original. They've definitely learned their lessons from Steamworld Dig. Oh, and they also have unlocked very quickly a full quick travel system. You have a set of pipes that you unlock, and they're essentially checkpoints that you can use to quickly travel around actually the entire world map. You have a central hub, which is El Machino, which, let's put it this way. First episode of my series, the mayor was talking about how you shouldn't listen to so-called experts, just keep the ore flowing. And I just kept saying, don't make a political statement, don't make a political statement, don't make a political statement to myself. Because, yeah. But you have the central hub, which is El Machino, which has all your vendors, and then it branches off into a rather large overworld and a rather deep mine with branching paths off of it for different subsections. And all of them have their own checkpoints and quick travel points, which was also another problem I had with the original Steamworld Dig, where once you got past a certain point, it started to get more and more of a grind to get back up top. And I was starting to get a little concerned about the lack of really consumables in this game, because the first game had ladders that you could build to be able to climb easily, but this has a hook shot, which is rather impressive on use. It's very quick, it's very agile. It takes a little getting used to, just because it's a little bit sensitive on its vertical versus horizontal. But that may just be the fact that I'm using a PlayStation controller instead of an Xbox controller. And I have a custom dead zone set on it because I like my dead zone a little bit larger. So that may just be it. Or it may just be the fact that I'm not using the D-pad on it, which maybe I should. I typically default to the analog stick, but for this game, it may not make sense to do so. But yeah, impressed so far.
Well, that's good to hear.
They streamlined the progression system. They made it make more sense. They've added a lot more mobility. They've cleaned up the platforming. They've cleaned up the progression. They added more sensible progression. They added an alternate way to progress if you don't, or if you get stuck. Because sometimes the puzzle platforming can be a little bit of a challenge. There's a couple areas that are more fast-paced. That, yeah, if you're not into a fast-paced platformer, may be a problem. But you're able to just go get minerals to get an upgrade cog or two instead. Or you don't really even need the upgrade cogs, at least not yet. That's the thing, is that I'm still fairly early in the game, I think. So the upgrade system may be more important later on, but for now, it still feels like, yeah, this looks cool, this looks cool. Ooh, resource nodes destroy the blocks around it, so I could get things to chain. That sounds really good. But no, must-haves. There are convenience items. There are things that speed up progression, but that's it. But yeah, definitely worth a look, especially if you like the first Steamworld Dig. And that brings me to my last game. Jared, have you watched the trailer for this game?
Yes, I have. I have indeed.
Titan Ultra. I got a very early code for this and no embargo date. So I decided to try this, and I went into this expecting one of two things. Either I was going to absolutely hate this game, or I was absolutely going to love it. And I'm leaning more towards the love. What?
That's good, because I haven't played this game, but I know that I love it already, so.
This is essentially Crazy Taxi plus Japanese mecha plus pizza. You are the new pilot of the Pizza Titan Ultra, this 10-story pizzeria mecha, and your entire mission is to deliver pizza around the city and fight off the evil Cheesebot, who is a cyborg from the future, who definitely is not Chuck E. Cheese, and fulfilled the request of your VIPs. So this game has two modes in it, where one is pretty much your free play, very Crazy Taxi-esque, where you're going around just trying to deliver as many pizzas as you can. And then you have the VIP mode, which the VIP mode is pretty short. It's about 4 or 5 hours. About 30. It's 32 missions across 8 maps. 3 missions per map. And the VIP mode is similar to free roam, only with an additional thing. So, for example, the first VIP you get is Robert Ross, who is definitely not Bob Ross. And he wants you to find what they call secret ingredients. On each of the 8 maps, there are 5 mega ingredients that give you a cash boost in free play mode and in ultra mode. But in this one, he needs you to find a certain amount of them to be able to make the ultimate pizza with, titanium white mozzarella. And it's you're able to do some of the VIP missions very quickly. There's others that are more annoying, and that's more of the game locks you into combat animations, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing. Some of the more combat-oriented missions are a bit of a pain. For example, later on, you have to fight these essentially giant mechas that are on the enemy side, and they have tractor beams. And there was a couple times that I just was getting pulled between several of them. But that's more of a situation of me letting them build up too much. I wasn't taking them on one at a time. I'll let them gang up on me. And also, as you upgrade your mech, all the upgrades are cosmetic, all right? There's a garage system, and the mech is completely modular. The arms can be customized, the chest can be customized, the backpack can be customized, the head and the legs, all independently customized. As you buy more of the upgrade parts, it builds up a upgrade meter in the game, which unlocks a new ultimate ability. Which, for the most part, the first one is fine, which is the super sprint mode, which also negates any negative movement speed. So the cheese bots eventually will have a tanker that is spreading these, essentially American cheese. Just crap cheese all over the place. And it slows you down.
Right.
And in order to destroy it, you have to do your stomp attack, but you can't attack while you're stuck in this cheese. You're only able to slowly move. But the dash attack negates that, so you're able to escape. You eventually unlock the ability to do a chest laser, a shield, or able to pull in the collectibles in the area to you. Which is also important, depending on the mission, because some of the missions require you to get a certain amount of a collectible. Like so many dollar signs, some of the little cash icons. Some of them require you to be very careful and not destroy things. Others require you to destroy everything. They're very diversive in what they require as your secondary mission in the VIP section. Which is fine, but I do think that this game is going to be one of those that you pick up and play every so often and not really put a lot of time into in one setting. Like Crazy Taxi was back in the day. It was more of a pick up and play instead of going absolutely nuts for the most part. There is a learning element of sitting down and learning the maps, and the maps do get actually fairly complex really quickly. The third map has two higher platforms that you have to be able to use jump pads to get to, or do some platforming, which the camera angle makes a little bit annoying until you get used to it. And the camera isn't exactly the greatest. There was a couple times that I took some major damage because there was an enemy hiding behind a building that I couldn't see, because of just how they were situated with the camera. But then I just knocked down the building and it was fine. Collateral damage, right?
Yeah. I want this game.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to what the final price is, because I don't know what the price is going to be on this. They haven't announced it.
I requested a review kit copy, which has not been answered yet, but sometimes those take a week or more to
I was actually surprised
process.
I got it. Because I got it this early without an embargo.
Yeah.
Because typically whenever I get a game that's 3 weeks out, this releases in late April. Actually, I think they finally put a release date of April 27th on. Usually there's an embargo for a couple of weeks, but nope, nothing this time, so I was free to talk about it and record it.
Indeed.
Yeah, I did mention the combat a little bit. Whenever you're fighting the big robots, it has a lot of references in this. My big litmus test that I mentioned in my video for this was Ready Player One. If the references annoy you in Ready Player One, do not play this game. Period. Because all the customizations are some sort of reference. There's Power Rangers that I recognized. Particularly the old Dragon Zord, it looked like, or at least parts of it. Transformers. At least 2 or 3 different Gundams. All your VIPs are some sort of reference. You have Bob Ross. You have Captain Planet who calls up. Then you get some weirder ones. Like there was a mixture of Chung-Li and Princess Leia. Who called up wanting a pizza. And I'm pretty sure Billy, who is the delivery boy, it looks like a little like Fry from Futurama, only with freckles. And Billy West.
Yeah, I'm looking for
last screenshot
for all of them.
Is the cast.
Oh, okay.
And Billy is the one that's holding the pizza paddle in the lower left.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, I actually had fun with it. But it all comes down to price. If this is overpriced, I would say wait for sale. But if you're a fan of Crazy Taxi-esque games, this is definitely one to check out. Not a lot to talk about because it is a very simplistic game overall. But hey, you're fisting giant skyscrapers and delivering pizza.
That sounds like a good time to me.
And I mean, literally fisting in the VIP mode, because once you complete the VIP mission, it's mission over, and you launch a rocket fist, and it launches into the living room, and they deliver the pizza.
Nice. I want one of those pizzas from a giant robot.
Who's destroyed half the town delivering it.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, some of the missions are a little bit more annoying than others, especially ones where you have to avoid doing damage to the town, or have a very a particular thing you have to hunt down. Like, one of the missions that required me to find all 5 of the secret ingredients was annoying because I only found 3 in free roam, and one was kind of hidden behind a building about halfway. But yeah, once I leveled the city, it wasn't that hard, but it took me some time to find it. What?
Once I leveled the city, it wasn't that hard.
But the most annoying one I found was one where I had to not do damage to the city, but because the enemy army was doing damage, it counted against me. So I had to try to avoid populated cities, populated centers of the city as much as I could. And just dive in, fist a building, and dive out. Which sounds a little odd out of context. Nah, it's in context as well.
And that's all A-okay in my book.
But yeah, pretty good overall. I did hit a few bugs, but I'm playing this 3 weeks out from launch, so I didn't hold that against it. I had a crash when I simultaneously failed and passed a mission.
Okay.
Yeah, I hit the Stronger bug where, as I completed the mission, I also failed the objective. It was the same one that I talked about where I had to avoid doing damage to the city. As I completed the mission and I got my last pickup for it, the enemy destroyed a building and put me over the quota that I could destroy buildings. So I failed and passed at exactly the same time, and I crashed the game. And I have had times where I got stuck in an animation, especially delivering a pizza. One time I was up to like $4,000 or $5,000 for a free roam delivery, and I got stuck in the animation right at the end of the timer. But like I said, I'm playing this 3 weeks out, so I'm assuming that they're doing QA now. So I don't hold it against them that much. Now we'll see if they fix it after the fact, though. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless you have questions about Pizza Titan Ultra.
I don't think so.
Oh, and also,
I just want to play it myself.
Well, let's put it this way: you could also in the garage completely customize the colors. And I actually referenced you whenever I painted my Titan pink for a second. I know someone that's
thanks.
I know someone that's going to make it a garish color. And the Titan has 3 different colors that you could paint. A primary, a secondary, and tertiary. So you can make it look hideous.
Excellent. And when you say hideous, you mean fabulous.
No, I mean fabulous.
Fabulous.
Oh, my throat is absolutely killing me. So why don't you take it over?
Indeed. So I had 5 games this week. They're all mobile games because I didn't play anything new during the week. And then I went to my parents' house over the weekend for Easter and downloaded a bunch of mobile games to play. So the first one on my list is Anybody Out There Dead City. This is one of those sort of storytelling, choose your own adventure type games, just like the Lifeline games.
And the one I had last week, which I actually hit the end of the demo on. I was assuming it was a demo, but it kind of put me off rather soon after we talked about it, just because of a long rant it had.
Yeah. But, so anyways, this is one of those type games, and you're contacted by someone who's surviving, or who has survived the zombie apocalypse, but they're in some sort of alternate universe, or dimension, or something, because, like, they ask you a bunch of questions, and you respond, and you're like, no, there's not been any apocalypse, there's no undead walking around.
Not that I
don't know
know
what
of.
you're talking about. So, it does a couple of interesting things that I haven't seen these other games do. It's got this sort of telltale system at the end whenever you complete an entire day.
Yeah, I see that on the screenshots.
It'll tell you all the choices you made and, you know, who made those choices and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. But otherwise, it's pretty standard for this type of game. It's got I've noticed a few typos in it. So I'm not sure if this is translated from, you know, some other language to English, or if they were just like rushing it out the door or something. But
this is this is from Head Up Games. The reason why
the
that's
people who did the Portal Bridge Constructor game,
and actually the Inner World games as well. So yeah, this is a more high-end developer. So not sure why there should be typos in it.
Yeah, I've seen several very obvious typos, and I'm pretty bad at grammar, and half the time I'm pretty bad at spelling. So if I notice your typos, then you're doing something wrong. But in general, it hasn't really hurt my sort of immersion into the game. Do
you think
like
they may have
purposely
did the typos because it's someone texting you?
Maybe, but it doesn't feel that way. It didn't have like an autocorrecty type of feel or like weird shorthand.
Do you think it would have been better if there was a typo or a wrong word, and then immediately it's like, oops, I meant... especially during a tense moment?
Yeah, that would be better, but there hasn't been any of that.
I was just trying to explain away why would there be a typo in this. Maybe it's just they didn't do QA or missed it. Or their autocorrect didn't grab it.
They're really, like, they're obvious sort of simple typos, like, instead of saying they are, it'll say they is.
Oh, okay.
Or something like, you know, stuff like that. Or missing punctuation, so a sentence goes on and on and on. Because you can ask this kid, well, I assume it's a kid, like a teenager. That's the sense that I get from the game, but I don't really know too much about them. Their name is Sam, so they went the whole gender-neutral route, which is fine. But otherwise, you don't know much about them, other than they're like, I found this phone, and this app was turned on, and you were set as to the favorite contact. So... hi, I'm sorry that your friend is probably dead. And I'm like, who are you and what are you talking about?
I wonder if this is the reason why they're a German company. So they may not be doing, their primary language may not be English.
Yeah, I mean, and localization is difficult. It's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But it is noticeable. So if you do have an eye for that sort of thing, and it does bother you, then this might not be the game for you. But I mean, so far, I'm only on day 2. It does, you know, it'll notify you whenever you get a new message, but
like
sometimes I don't get those notifications, and I'm not sure why, so I forget about it for like 6 hours, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should check on Sam and see what's up.
And then you get the message, Sam's dead because you didn't care.
The only other thing that it does that really annoys me is that they haven't said the word zombies yet, but they do that thing where they use a million different phrases to describe zombies, but they don't actually say zombie. I'm just like, just fucking say zombies.
Well,
they're zombies.
There's a reason why, at least I've heard people talk about this, especially in universes where zombies exist, or zombies in sarcasm quotes. It's the idea that the zombies don't exist in the mythical lore of that world. So the obvious things that you would think of when you're dealing with a zombie, they wouldn't think of. So since the word zombie doesn't exist in their vocabulary, they're having to learn everything on the fly. That's what I've always heard, and it makes the most sense to me.
I mean,
I don't
that's
think
an
the word
explanation that
zombie
makes
is
sense,
trademarked or
but
anything. So,
for
they
like,
also don't
writing
wanna,
and
they don't want to fall into the cliche of zombie.
yeah. I mean, I understand that reasoning, but it still bugs me. Like, that's the only part that really annoys me about this game is I'm like, just fucking say that they're zombies. Jesus. It's not that hard. But otherwise, yeah, it's a standard one of these, help someone choose their adventure, play in real time
choose
sort
their
of games.
adventure game.
Yeah. So it's fun. And it only costs 99 cents, and it's definitely worth, in my opinion, 99 cents. So if you're looking for one of these games to play on your mobile device, at least on your Android device, I don't know if it's on iTunes, and if it costs the same, but at least in the Google Play Store, 99 cents. Pretty good game. Next on my list, Car versus Cops.
Oh boy, this looks basic.
It is super basic. This is a game where you play a car and you try to outrun cops.
You mean like the title?
Yeah. And it's on a black grid, black and white grid.
Okay, tell me one thing.
Literally, that's it.
Tell me one thing about this. Is there ability to change your car to a Ford Bronco?
Yes.
A white Ford Bronco?
I don't remember if it's white or not. But there's quite a few cars, but the thing is that this is a free-to-play game, and that's where they get you, because you got to collect coins, and if you collect enough coins, you can get a car for free.
Does it use the gotcha model where it's a random thing, or is it the cars slowly improve and they also quickly improve in price?
No, you can buy any car at any time, and all of the cars cost the same amount of coins because they're literally just skins. There's a couple of cars you can unlock by watching ads. So I watched enough ads to unlock the cars for free, and then I played enough to unlock one car. So you've got like a red just sedan.
You have
that's your
the
starting
same
car.
link on here twice, by the way.
Do I?
Yeah.
Whoops. I'll fix that.
Well, I was going to bring up the next game, but it brought up the same one.
My mistake. But anyways, all of the cars seem to handle the same because I got like a Formula 1 car and like the sedan and then a truck, and they all seem to handle exactly the same. So I think that they're just different skins of the car. And I mean, you just dodge the cops for as long as you can. And, the more time passes, the more difficult it gets. The cops spawn in larger, tougher, faster vehicles, and your speed stays the same, so you're just dodging. I mean, it's alright, for like a 2-3 minute game to play at a time. But it's nothing
I think
special.
Betty Metro still wins.
Yeah, there's nothing special to it. There's nothing to write home about. The soundtrack is alright, but even after a few minutes, it's just like, okay. Yeah. So, alright game. Nothing particularly broken or bad about it, but also nothing really good about it. Next on my list is One Line, One Stroke puzzle game.
One Stroke!
And it's a really shitty name for a pretty decent game. Those puzzles that you would play as a kid where you had to connect all of the lines or whatever without lifting your pencil?
Yeah.
This is that, except on touchscreen.
Yeah, I was about to say, wait a minute. This looks very familiar.
Yeah, this is a very zen game. It's free to play. You can buy the maps or the puzzle packs early, but you also can just solve all of the puzzles to unlock the next puzzle pack. So, I mean, you could, I guess, if you wanted to, buy into a certain puzzle type, but otherwise there's no real reason to. I mean, you can just buy the game, like, you install it for free, but then you can buy it for, I think, $2 from inside to remove the ads, and the microtransactions and just unlock everything in one go. But you don't really have to. And this is a very zen game. It's got a very nice soundtrack. Got some mix of like some classical music and like some very smooth jazz and techno thrown in there, and it alternates through the soundtracks as you play the puzzles.
Yeah,
It's just a really solid, fun, simple puzzle game.
I think this is where mobile's really shown as just the more simple puzzle games that aren't full of absolute bullshit. Because the management genre on mobile is pretty much just energy bars and timers, which absolutely infuriates me.
Yeah.
The shooter genre you're about to talk about.
Actually, I'm about to talk about the management genre.
I didn't even look at your next game. I knew your last one.
But yeah, One Line was quite good. I played it for about 2 hours over the weekend, just like laying in bed, chilling before I took a nap, because I was always the last person awake in the house every night anyways.
Oh, I've had this one pop up before, the Rocket Valley Tycoon.
Yeah, so One Line,
and then
good Zen game.
Yeah, and the next few words in its title immediately turned me off from it.
I know, but it's actually a really good game. So Rocket Valley Tycoon they should just stop there, but idle resource manager game, unreleased. So this is an early access, free-to-play, mobile, sort of idle game. And all of that sounds like garbage. And I thought it was going to be a really garbage game, but the art style and the fact that it was on a hex grid made me think, well, maybe there's something a little more to this game. And there is. So this combines some light resource management, light transportation management, gameplay mechanics, with some light, at least so far, light idle type gameplay elements, with a brilliant art style that I really enjoy, something that feels very unique on mobile, to create this really interesting little management game that doesn't require too much of your time at once, but seems like there's a lot of depth to it. So
it's one of those that you fire up every so often to collect and make decisions.
Sort of, yeah. So what it is that you start out on Earth, and you have one large plot of land, which is something like, I would guess, like 200 hexes, and there's a city. And it walks you through the tutorial mechanics, and you build your first resource harvester, and then connect it to a factory, and then connect the factory to a train depot, and then connect the train depot to a city, and you bring the city the resources that it requests. And there's two ways to earn money in the game. You complete the missions that the cities give you. There's multiple cities, but you start out with just one. And then whenever you have excess resources, if you've got your factories and your mines set to continuously mine after they're full, it will sell those resources, and then you collect the money from them. So you do those two things to collect money. The cities also give you bonuses. So the more missions you complete for a city, the more bonuses you get for the area around the city. So more money when you sell resources, or automatically faster factories, or some other bonuses they can provide like that. And once you do enough missions for a city, it unlocks the next area around you. And you can pick the area. It looks like there's 10 areas to expand into on Earth. I assume eventually you can run out of resources, but there are billions of like the resource numbers are measured in billions of units. So I expect that would take a while. And so the management aspect of it. Yeah. The management aspect of it, though, is placing your factories and your train depots and things in such a way to maximize their efficiency. The idle part comes in, you can upgrade them just like you can most stuff in an idle game. That way they're producing resources faster, and then if you've got the overflow turned on, then you'll make more money faster because they're selling more faster. I'm getting pretty close to being able to build my first rocket launch pad. So aside from what I can just see when you go look at like the big map of all of the locations, I don't know what's beyond Earth, but you can go to the moon, you can go to Mars, go to the asteroid belt, and then it says greater solar system beyond that. So I don't know if there's any going to be like expansion of these mechanics, or if it's just like...
You send a probe to Uranus?
Oh, yeah. Or if it's just go to the next place and do the thing over again. So I'm not sure about that. But it does have some very complex supply chains for a mobile game. Like, your first supply chain isn't too bad. It's like a total of 8 things to build the final product, like 8 steps. But the second chain for the second, like, main resource that you need to build rockets, like computers or something like that, is like 14 steps. And there's 3 more beyond that one. So if they keep increasing at that rate...
So how long did it take you to get to this point?
I have played it for about 2 hours of playtime, and then idle time a couple of days.
Because my big problem with this genre is that you start getting to the point where if you don't buy in, it takes you up to a week to start getting past progress for each milestone, and that's what's always put me off from this. I'll play it for a bit, then I'll hit the point where, okay, now I need to wait a week. No, I don't. Uninstall.
I haven't gotten there yet. I played it for about an hour, like, nonstop when I first started playing, because the first few rewards it gives you from the city, or from doing missions for the city, are pretty large in comparison to what things at the low end cost. And I pretty quickly unlocked the second area with the second city and started getting bonuses from there. And I got through all of that in about the first hour. And then I put it down and I picked it up the next day. And I played on it 2 or 3 times the next day, which was Monday. So Sunday and Monday, for about another hour total. And I haven't had a chance to get on it and play it today. I had a pretty busy day today, actually. But I don't feel like progress has been hampered too much. The missions, though, were randomly generated by the cities, and I had one give me a mission that I couldn't afford for quite... It felt like it was going to be quite a while. But you also can spend lots of your money to really increase the amount of money that you can make, because it doesn't have any limits on what sort of factories and mines you can build. So if you want a lot of quick cash, you can just build some several mines and factories to produce things specifically to sell, and it doesn't penalize you in any way, like for covering up resources or anything like that. Because if you destroy your buildings to do a redesign or something like that, any resources that were underneath it still stay there. Like there's no penalties or anything for that. So you just have to pay for the factories and the mines themselves. So you could speed it up that way. I feel like the progression has been fairly natural. I haven't felt like, at least so far, like it's tried to say, hey, you should probably buy some premium currency or spend some of your real money. There's no premium currency. Let me rephrase that. You should spend some of your real money to buy the in-game currency so that you can go faster, or buy boosts for currency and stuff like that. So far, I haven't felt like that's the case, but we'll see. I mean, I'm going to keep playing it this week. I want to at least get off playing it and see what the next section of the game is like. Because if it adds some kind of mechanic or changes something in a key way, that's pretty cool and I'll keep playing it. But if it's literally the same thing, just mine resources and build rockets to expand to the next stage, I'll stop playing. Because I don't want to just do that again for however many hours. But it's a fun little game. It's a lot higher quality game than the title would lead you to think.
Yeah, I mean, the title immediately put me off. But to be fair, the title of the next one puts me off as well.
Indeed. So, moving on to the final game on my list. PUBG Mobile.
Nope.
So, I played PUBG Mobile, guys, because it was free. And I was like, sure, why the hell not? Why not?
I can think of a few reasons, but go ahead.
It's not a terrible game, but it's not a good game either. Playing it strictly mobile is terrible. They have crammed so much shit onto the screen to be obscured by your thumbs, particularly someone like me with like fat sausage thumbs. So that you're constantly misclicking and doing the wrong thing and constantly getting yourself killed. Yeah, mistapping. Sorry. maybe if I had smaller thumbs or had never played a real video game before ever, this would be okay.
This looks like a tablet game if you're playing it with on-screen controls because, damn, there's so fucking much here. I'm looking at one of the screenshots, and there's 3 icons plus the on-screen joystick, which is usually trash. Plus, then the backpack icon on the left. Plus, it looks like some sort of like a symbol thing along the bottom with 2 weapon slots there. Then another, I'm not sure what that is on the right, plus a reload, plus your stances, plus a jump, plus some sort of other ammo. I mean, dear God. It looks like icons just threw up on the screen.
The movement's actually not so bad, because basically, when you're using the on-screen controls, what you do is you double tap to auto-run, and then you just don't worry about it. But everything else is garbage. It's got a huge amount of aim assist, because it has to, because this is worse than playing with a controller. But whenever you try to use a scope, it takes away quite a bit of that aim assist.
Of course it does. Well,
I should say, whenever you try to aim down sights. So it takes away quite a bit of the aim assist if you try to aim down sights.
So this is essentially the reverse of what you usually do, is try to aim down sights to get better aim?
Yeah, it's terrible. It was a stupid idea. I don't know who thought of that idea. Maybe they thought, they'll be able to swipe around. They should swipe around to be able to aim when they're down sights, which is what you do, by the way. You tap the button to aim down sights, and then you swipe your finger around on the screen to adjust your aim.
Oh, dear God.
It's terrible. It's real bad. This game, though, in its mobile form, and I played it with a controller. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Cheater.
In its mobile form, this game, I think, is designed for, like, teenagers, middle school and high school kids who have grown up playing games a lot more on tablet and touchscreen devices in general. Well, I can tell you
definitely, because it's number 1.
Yeah. And it's just a really bad game to try and play on a touchscreen. There's also some differences in the mobile version that I know are there, because I've heard people talk about them on podcasts and read a couple of articles. There's bots.
Just pad the numbers, or because they couldn't do 100 players on a mobile server?
I'm pretty sure it's the technical limitation. They're saying it's so that people can get a handle on the game without being thrown in against 100 people. But the thing is that, like, everyone that you play with, everyone that you play with is garbage anyways, and the bots sometimes do a better job than the players.
Well,
they're not great.
Well, they don't have to deal with the on-screen controls.
Yeah, the bots aren't great, and you can tell what the bots are because they all wear red shirts. Yeah, I had a good chuckle at that too. But there's bots, and there seem to be fewer bots the more games that you play. My first couple of games, it seemed like it was pretty close to 100% bots. There were maybe 10 players that I was able to pick out really quickly. Or as I was playing before I died. But after about game number 4 or 5, it seemed like there was only about 50% bots that I saw. So, I don't know, take that as you will.
Maybe they should have went for smaller maps and smaller player counts.
Yeah. Nah, why would they do that? That's not what a Battle Royale game is, Rage.
Oh, of course
he
not.
said sarcastically. And also, they did a few other things to try and ease the mobile experience. Like, you automatically pick up items now instead of having to faff about with the inventory system, which I've never faffed about with the inventory system before, but you pick up stuff automatically. I talked about the aim assist, auto run. It automatically equips your best weapon by default, unless you turn that off in the options. Couple other little things like that. As far as the game looks and plays, from like a frame rate and visual perspective. It looks okay. It looks about the same as it does on PC, honestly. And on a PC, that's not very good. But on a mobile device, that's not too bad.
Hey, look, they got polygons.
It felt like there was a lot less stutter than what I've seen on people playing on PC and console.
Well, don't
for
you
the
have
game.
a pretty good phone as well? So that may be just the fact that they're shooting for a lower phone, and you're able to
they're
just
probably
throw
shooting for
more horsepower at it.
Yeah, because I've got the Galaxy S8 Plus, which was one of last year's like top of the line phones. So, you know, I'm certainly above the lowest common denominator phone that they're shooting for. So that could be why it looks better for me and plays better, or looks the same and plays better. But yeah, I didn't notice a lot of stutter. It's really hard to notice server lag when the game is so dicey to control anyways. So I guess that works in their favor. But after I played a few games or a few rounds using the touch controls, I thought, let me give this a shot with a controller. Which the game doesn't officially support controller or keyboard and mouse. But I mean, I didn't have to even do anything. I connected my Bluetooth controller to my phone, and it recognized it immediately, and I just was able to play with it. So, I don't know.
And how many times were you cussed out for using the controller?
Oh, man.
It has voice chat turned on, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I turned voice chat off. But there's still a little... You can get, like, messages from people, and I had a few people call me some nasty names. Because they were like, you've got to be cheating. You've got to be cheating. It's like, no, I'm just using a controller instead of trying to play with the shitty touch controls. Which I have seen a couple of articles where people are saying, if you use a keyboard and mouse or a controller, you're definitely cheating and hacking in this game. From, like... quote-unquote legit publications.
This is why I don't read stuff from mobile games to begin with. Is that mobile game sites are just garbage. At least the ones I've been able to find. I think maybe I need to find a couple of the like second tier mobile sites to look for games because, yeah, using a controller is cheating. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on.
Yeah, playing it with a controller, it wasn't so bad. In this whole...
Well, Fortnite has actually... they have their mobile version out as well, but it doesn't look like it's nearly as popular for some reason.
Well, it's only on iPhone.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it wasn't on iPhone. I don't follow these games that closely.
Yeah, Fortnite so far has only released on iOS devices.
Yeah. Well, I know that they're blocking controllers for the time being. Or at least they're supposedly are.
Yeah, playing with a controller, one, it was no contest against other players. And two, I got a better, I guess, experience of what PUBG is supposed to be. And it's alright. I like Fortnite better for all the reasons that I thought I would.
I imagine Fortnite looks a lot better.
PUBG is much slower than Fortnite. Average game length in Fortnite, 15 minutes or so. Average PUBG game, 30, 35 minutes or so. Even on mobile. Ugh. Yeah, they didn't change any of that. Because people just hide. If you are somehow forced beyond just the closing ring of death to fight more often, I'd say on mobile the battles would last a lot less. But people will just hide. So they still go the full time.
Well, they have crap controls, so they've resorted to camping.
But
why don't they just play this other game that I could see on top charts, Hide Online instead?
But yeah, matches take too long.
Looks like it's Prop Hunt. Actually, that wouldn't be bad.
But yeah, matches take too long. I prefer the cartoony, stylized art style to the attempt at realism, or realistic looking graphics. I like the silly weapons more than the real weapons for this type of game. I miss the crafting system, or miss the building system.
I thought you hated
bitched a lot about it. I bitched a lot about it in Fortnite, but without having it at all, you feel very limited whenever you come up on stuff. It's like, well, I can go inside this building, or I can hide in this bush. And that's it. And at least in Fortnite, you're not limited to where you can go. It's like, oh, look, a little cliffside up there. Well, let me just build a sky bridge real quick, and I'll get over there.
Or knock down a wall to enter a building.
Yeah, and there's none of that in PUBG. So it feels very limited in its maneuverability.
Hey, but look at it this way. With your controller, you can go make kids cry.
That's true, I can.
I think we found content for your channel. Get a video recorder for your phone and go play PUBG and have some sort of montage.
Or I could just uninstall the game, get that 1.5 gigs of space back.
Wow, it's a 1.5 gigs?
Play some. Yeah, it's a 1 gig download, and then when it installs, it's almost 1.5 gigs.
Shit.
Yep.
And of course, it has to use the internal memory as well, because that's something that annoys the fuck out of me, is that I can't use my SD card for most apps to install.
Yeah, I use my SD card pretty much exclusively for music and podcasts. But, I mean, I have 64 gigabytes of internal memory on my phone, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, but it's annoying.
It is annoying. It's stupid. But yeah, PUBG Mobile. PUBG, whenever I played it with a controller, so it was closer to the console or PC experience. I mean, it's not for me, but, you know, like I said with Fortnite Battle Royale, like, I can see why people like this type of game. It's just not something that I enjoy. And out of the two, Fortnite I prefer, mostly because it's faster.
Well, I just had a thought. Okay, you had such an advantage when you put a controller in. What if you did mouse and keyboard?
That would have probably been amazing. I don't have a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, though.
Well, a hub and USB?
Actually, I was going to say, I could just plug them up to my phone via a USB. Because I do have a hub. I've got 2 hubs.
I think we found your new goal for next week. Send you back into parachute you back into PUBG with a mouse and keyboard. Mouse and keyboard and voice chat on.
Yeah. I turned voice chat off immediately. Not very many people seem to use it. Like, I played through a couple of game matches
without realizing
just
it was
to see.
On.
Yeah, without realizing it was on. It was pretty quiet. But in the places where there are people talking, it's racist stuff and sexist stuff and bullshit.
Well, isn't that what PUBG is on PC? Whenever you're in that initial area before...
Especially if you're PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
Or Ninja, it seems. Or did you hear about that one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, supposedly he dropped the M-bomb, but then Twitch is like, It's kind of funny how people ignore him. But then again, he doesn't have the long string of controversy, so I don't know. Or maybe it's just context. I haven't went to look for it. I just saw a lot of people bitching and moaning about that. Saying, double standard, double standard. Well, context for one. Second, you're given the word more power by getting so up in arms about it. At least that's my opinion on it. I don't know. I'm old. Get off my lawn.
Indeed. Alright, so yeah, those are all the games I played this week. Aside from Fortnite. Which I'm not going to talk about again. So, ready to move on to our news topics, or do you need a break? Because we've been going for about, 90 minutes now?
Yeah, actually, 100.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think I'm good to go.
Cool. Then, moving on to our first news topic, which is really a collection of a couple of loot box related topics. Loot boxes. Drops come in, drops come out. Can't explain it.
Well, we can, but what would be the fun in that? First of all, Gravity,
I had
motherfucker.
a good time. I had a good time coming up with that title. I was very proud of myself.
Okay, so first up is the Hawaii Beals failing.
Indeed. So if you remember, I don't know how many weeks ago it's been now.
A couple months, actually. It was towards the beginning of the year. It was February.
Okay. Yeah, that's depending on when, somewhere between 1 and 2 months. But yeah, if you remember way back when, in the current year. Hawaii's state legislators were putting up some bills into the Senate and the House. I don't remember all of the specifics off the top of my head.
One of them required
one pair was
odds to be posted in a game, or be odds available for the contents of the loot box, and the other was a warning label for loot boxes in general.
Right. And one of those bills technically passed, but it was completely changed into another bill.
It's the thing that it's the same bill in name only, and that's it.
Yeah, it was completely gutted and replaced with something about food. Restaurant chain.
It was changed to. Let's go. Let's start with that one, I guess. House Bill 2727 made it so that, or no, was it the other one? The Senate bill, yeah. It was made it so that restaurants that aren't participating in nationwide promotions have to post some sort of signage, and that's it. So completely changed, nothing to do with the loot boxes at all. And all the other ones seem to fail to get past committees or get voted on in general, with no real explanation why yet. But this was also the state that was seeing a lot of lobbyists coming out. So I think we know why. It's just nobody knows the specifics yet.
Yeah. And this sucks that none of those bills passed.
But this is also round one. And if we learned anything from the net neutrality clusterfuck, is that laws will keep popping up again. And in some cases that's good, some cases that's bad. In this case, this may be a good thing, this may be a bad thing. It all comes down to the wording of the law itself.
Yeah. There are several other states that have since.
Yeah, Washington is kind of leading the charge now that Hawaii's dropped out. Yeah. Which we'll get to that in a little bit.
Indeed.
But yeah, not really a lot to talk about here. More of a disappointment that this is falling through, because from everything that I could tell, these weren't egregious. These were more just a little bit of warning label or a little bit of pushing developers to disclose the damn odds.
Yeah, just general consumer protection instead of just completely taking over and having like ratings boards or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a blanket ban. It's not making it against the law. It's just proper warning, proper information out, and what we wanted the ESRB to do in the first fucking place.
Indeed. But it seems that
the lobbyists have won this time.
They've won this round, but the other round, or they've won this fight for now. But the fight against loot boxes in AAA games seems to be heading in the direction of the consumer, because Shadow of War announced that they are going to be removing loot boxes and microtransactions and rebalancing and making some pretty big changes to the end of the game, which really was tailored towards a grind fest or buy loot boxes. And that's going to be happening in
July.
Was it June or July? July.
Yeah, I'm of two minds on this. Well, first of all, when I first saw this, I thought this was some sort of April Fool's joke. Because this was announced I don't think it was announced April 1st, but it was starting to make the rounds towards the end of the day. So I saw this, I thought this was a joke, and then I started looking more and more into it and saw, wait, this is actually the real thing. And for one, they're talking about how it undermines the game systems and how it made the game not fun. But wasn't this the same argument everybody was talking about 6 months ago when this piece of shit launched?
Yeah.
I mean,
this was the argument that everyone
This
made.
is a complete 180. And yes, they do get some credit for removing the loot boxes, but at the same time, they're doing this right before the last DLC launches to try to get a little bit of sales back, which we talked about this yesterday before recording. and looked up the sales numbers, and the sales numbers for this game are abysmal.
Yeah. It had only sold something like 750,000, give or take.
Yeah, with the margin of error on Steam.
On Steam.
It's his only platform on PC, isn't it?
No, you can buy it from it's just like a Windows install.
Is it on another storefront? That's not Steam?
No, it's not on another storefront, but you can just buy like a PC version.
Are you sure it doesn't give it
them.
just a Steam key?
Yes, because it was listed separately on, what was that other site that I looked at? VG Charts. It was listed separately from the Steam numbers. So don't know if you get the game directly from there.
It looks like I'm looking around and it looks like it all goes through Steam. So maybe it's a peculiarity with the Steam charts.
Maybe.
Because let's put it this way, there's a couple things that Steam is required to play this game. So yeah, according to the wiki. So
okay. Maybe
it's some sort of peculiarity, or they're talking about physical sales, because that may be a thing. Collector's editions and that sort of thing.
It looks like it does have a physical PC release for a collector's edition, all of their various collector's editions.
So, the thing is that because of how they word this and how they're backpedaling on all their arguments, and the big thing that really sticks in my craw is the fact that they're talking about having to rebalance the end game to remove the loot boxes, which validates every single damn claim we made about the last portion of the game being designed to sell the damn loot boxes. Fuck them.
That also goes to validate claims that have been made against other developers.
Yes.
Because they've always been like, no, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to affect the game. But this just gives us evidence that developers do. Which, we know that they do. But it's good to have evidence for things that you know.
Yeah, the only way this game ends up in my Steam library is Humble Bundle. And there has to be something else in that bundle that I want. And I will remove my contribution to this developer. It will go to fucking zero. I will give it to Humble instead of them. They are not getting my money. This is a goodwill gesture. Fuck them.
Yeah, I was debating on whether or not now I might be willing to purchase it on sale in a year or two from now.
I still say no. Just with them talking about having to rebalance things. It's just... This validates every single complaint. And them turning it around on us. Because they kept talking about player choice. They kept talking about how it's a difficulty setting. Well, if the difficulty has to be adjusted because you removed the easy mode, then something's wrong with your difficulty settings.
Yeah, didn't they say that they were going to be making some tweaks to the story as well, so that it made more sense something? The Shadow War, the very last chapter of the game, is a very, very long grind, according to every single review I've read that actually got that far, because the problem with a lot of game reviews, particularly for the AAA aspect of things, is that they're rushed so much, even with embargoes, that usually they play a major portion of the game, or about half the game, and build their review off that. But they don't say that they built their review off that. So the ones that came out later, who got through all the game, started talking about problems with the late game, with the Shadow War area of it. Where if you do not pay into it, or you get lucky with the orcs, or you've built up your army by essentially grinding out earlier in the game, you are going to have a rough time. And people were talking about how it seems to be built around having to either buy in or just grind out the loot boxes to get the orcs. And the fact that the orcs were mostly in the loot boxes
undermine the entire Nemesis system, which, hey, look, they talk about right there.
Yeah, which the Nemesis system from the first game was the best part about it. Because without the Nemesis system, it was roughly Lord of the Rings, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, let's see. The core promise of the Nemesis system is the ability to build your relationships with your personal allies and enemies in a dramatic open world. While purchasing orcs in the market is a more immediate and provides additional player options, we have come to realize that providing this choice risks undermining the heart of our game. We told you this 6 fucking months ago. Ugh.
Yep. I wonder why they have done this. Aside from just attempting to make a goodwill gesture, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe just because we're the enthusiasts and the cynics, but I don't see any sort of goodwill here.
I think
at
this
all.
is mostly trying to get the long tail because they saw their sales drop off dramatically, particularly when it started coming around that the late game is a huge grind. It requires the loot boxes. And the fact that this is dropping around the time that their last DLC is coming out really makes me think that.
Let's see, what other Lord of the Rings games are on Steam? Just to do a little...
yeah, I'm wanting to... Hang on, let me read the portion for the Shadow Wars thing because... yeah, I'm trying to find it now because... why is the Shadow Wars portion of the game being changed? Okay, here we go. With the addition of the Endless Siege... We now are able to streamline the Shadow Wars and add a number of improvements to the presentation along with new narrative elements to provide a more cohesive experience. This is just incredibly infuriating to me. I think this may piss me off more than they putting loot boxes in the first place, is the fact that they're removing them for the reasons that we said that we complained about, but they argued against 6 months ago. And it's not like they haven't had a chance to articulate this in the last 6 months. I really think that they saw their sales drop. They didn't see the money rolling in that they were expecting. They realized that the sales from the original Shadow of Mordor was far superior by this point, and they traced it to the microtransactions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason I can think of.
So Shadow of Mordor, obviously it's been on Steam for a lot longer, but it has between 4.3 and 4.4 million owners on Steam, with an all-time peak of 48,518, which that's probably launch time.
Yeah.
Usually that big number is from launch.
Yeah, usually.
So let's see. Let's take a look at Shadow of War. Shadow of War, between 693,000 and 747,000. All-time peak, 67,943. So higher all-time peak, but much lower sales, even in relation to point in time. Because I looked all this up on VG charts when we were talking about it yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And for the time period, Shadow of Mordor sales skyrocketed. But Shadow of War sales have pretty much stagnated. There's been no big improvement over time. There's just a trickle. It's done a lot more on console, but even its console numbers are not great.
Well, did they make any major improvements to the game itself, or other than sequel?
I don't
because
think so.
I never really heard anyone talking brilliantly about the Nemesis system this time. There was a lot of talk last time, but this time, it was mostly focused on the microtransactions.
I think I remember from the Angry Joe's review of it talking about how the Nemesis system was a bit more refined, but not really big improvements or anything. Just little improvements. incremental improvements. Nothing near as revolutionary as the system itself.
Yeah, you know what I want to see? I want to see the Nemesis system in the hands of someone other than these chuckle fucks.
Yeah, I would too. I'd love to see that come to other games.
Because, honestly, I don't trust these guys anymore.
It would be a great system for Ubisoft games. Pretty much all of them could utilize the Nemesis system to some degree. And Bethesda could probably do something with it. And obviously Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Can't really think of any more games off the top of my head that would probably benefit from it.
Yeah, just an Elder Scrolls game with the Nemesis system, that would actually be very impressive.
Yeah.
Or a Nemesis-like system, because, I imagine that it would not be the full Nemesis system in a Bethesda game. Until I get modded in, of course.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, the more I think about this, just the madder I get, and the more I read this, the madder I get, because it's just essentially turning our arguments, validating every single one of them.
Yep. And I don't see this really being...
I don't see this as a
positive at all.
I don't see this as a positive for consumers, because this really just sets the precedent of putting loot boxes in for the high time when your game is top of the charts, and then pulling them.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much any
it rewards...
Yeah, any AAA that puts in loot boxes is on my do not buy list.
Yeah. But it does reward patient gamers like you and I, who very rarely buy a new game. I might be, like I said, I'm tempted to buy it in a year or two.
Well, it's on Humble Bundle.
Obviously after.
And I could divert my money away from Monolith.
Yeah.
Because fuck Monolith. Actually, fuck them with a Monolith.
But yeah. This is just bullshit and crazy.
Yeah, and I'm rubbing off on you. Because you were...
I just don't see how it's a good thing. I really don't.
And people are praising them for removing them. But here's something that gets more praise from me. Not putting this bullshit in the first place. But this is a game that had... they had a controversy over a tribute to a dead colleague. Because they tried to sell it.
Yeah. It's, the metaphor too little too late, I don't think has ever applied quite so well to a video game. Or the idiom, sorry. Yeah, I don't think it's ever applied to a video game quite like this before.
This game, okay, so they took the gun, they shot themselves in the foot multiple times, they went to the hospital, got all healed up, came back home, found the gun again, and started shooting themselves in the foot again. Only it took them about 6 months to get healed up, but yeah.
Yeah, it seems reasonable for gunshot wounds, though. 6 months.
Yeah, especially with the amount of gunshots that they put into their foot, and it was just a bloody stump. I'm actually surprised that they were able to put the foot back on. But
they can do a lot these days.
Yeah, and of course we are seeing a lot of people praising this move, and I do understand people that were very excited about this game, but skeptical or holding back because of the loot box system being excited. But I just don't understand the pretty much universal praise for this because of removing bullshit when they still put bullshit on in the first place. After bullshit, and then controversy before that. And then, turning every single one of our arguments around on us, saying essentially how great they are for listening to our arguments or agreeing with our arguments after saying, no, it was player choice all along. I just don't understand the praise. But then again, I don't understand a lot of things in gamer culture, so get off my fucking lawn.
Maybe I'm old.
Ugh. So I brought the rage out in Caffeine Rage there.
There you
brought
go.
you along with me.
Indeed. But now let me bring you along to our next news topic, which is related, but different enough that we put it off by itself. Big Fish's casino video game constitutes illegal online gambling, a federal appeals court rules.
Yeah, this is a mobile game, isn't it?
Yes, it's a mobile casino game with slot machines and
blackjack.
Blackjack.
No hookers though.
Poker and things like that.
And they ruled that it's illegal gambling. This is in Washington. So this is my comment about Washington State being the charge now, because this is a lead into the argument about loot boxes being gambling if the actual casino games could be constituted as illegal gambling. And we've played online casino games before together on Stream Night a couple of times. Granted, it's not a mobile game, but Four Kings Casino. And how can you look around that game and say it's not gambling? Is just baffling to me.
Yeah, it's literally gambling. In actual gambling. And what the ruling came down to saying was that
I love the quote, by the way.
Which quote?
Despite collecting millions in revenue, Churchill Downs, like Captain Runo and Casablanca, purports to be shocked to find that Big Fish Casino could be constituted as illegal gambling. We are not.
Yeah. But what they said was, and I want to make sure I get this right. What was it about having value?
Virtual chips. Without virtual chips, a user is unable to play Big Fish Casino's various games. Judge Million DeSmith of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals wrote in his opinion Wednesday. Thus, if a user runs out of virtual chips and wants to continue playing Big Fish Casino, the plaintiff was female, by the way, she must buy more chips to have the privilege of playing the game. Likewise, if a user wins chips, the user wins the privilege of playing Big Fish Casino without charge. In sum, these virtual chips extend to the privilege of playing Big Fish Casino. Mic drop. So, yeah, even though you cannot cash out for cash directly, the idea that having the privilege to play the game free of charge constitutes a value, which has been the whole runaround of not only loot boxes, but these gambling games in general. I mean, pure gambling, like casino games. So we're seeing precedent set that could be extended quite far into other areas with these randomization, monetization schemes.
Yeah. I don't know what would be the next step. So this still has to hold up in court because obviously it's being appealed, and so it's being run up the next level of the court system.
You think we're going to hear the words Big Fish Casino in a Supreme Court ruling?
I think we will. Give it probably another year and a half, and there will be a Supreme Court case dealing with this. But, yeah, I don't know which one the next step would be. I don't know if it would be free-to-play games in general, because
what about the gotcha model? Pay in and get the loot crate lights, essentially.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know if it would go to one of those specific types of games, or if it would just encompass free-to-play games in general, or maybe start big and work its way narrow. I don't know. Court cases get weird sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I would say loot boxes would be third, maybe fourth on the chopping block. Well, if this continues to gain traction.
Well, it really depends on who sues, of course, because this is a woman that put in $1,000 into the Big Fish Casino. And why was she suing anyway? That's something that they didn't really comment on here. She claims to have spent more than $1,000 on this mobile game. The suit argues that the chips represent something of value, a vague clause within Washington State laws governing gambling. So maybe she realized that she was breaking the law and decided to sue. That's something that wasn't particularly clear to me.
It seems, I mean, my idea or thought process was that she wanted her money back because she felt like it was a waste.
Or she felt that they may have been tilting the odds, because that's the other thing that is in big trouble with these casino games, is that there's no regulation on them. And I know regulation in government right now is a dirty word, but there's no standardization of the odds. And we've seen this with loot boxes where on card packs and that sort of thing, where there's timers, there's psychological tricks that they use to think, okay, maybe the next one will be better. Instead of having flat odds, instead of having like a 25% chance of winning, if you lose too many times, it'll give you a win.
Yeah. Gambling, like real world gambling, is heavily regulated.
Yeah, that's why I was talking
pretty much
about.
Everywhere, as far as I know. So,
for good reason, there's a lot of problems with gambling. Mm-hmm. A lot of psychological problems could be linked to gambling, or a lot of psychological trickery could be used in gambling. So they have to tie it down. So, yeah, I could definitely see where these unregulated games that could just tweak the odds on the fly, mind you, could be in big, big trouble coming up. And while I don't really understand games, using the one that we played, games like King's Casino, even operate, because I don't... are people... Well, I realize I'm asking a loaded question here. Are people really that stupid to pay in that much money to be able to support these games? But then I realize the answer is probably yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily go stupid for all of them, but...
Gullible?
Gullible, maybe, or
Foolish?
Maybe they do have lower inhibition control. And, I mean, you know, they are literally gambling, at least in like games like Four Kings Casino and stuff. Maybe they just pay to get that hit. But there are lots of games that you can play for free, even in Four Kings Casino, and it gives you a fair amount of
granted, we've never played this particular game, so we don't know how this handles compared to the others. But also, someone that has a gambling addiction goes into something like Four Kings, and even though it gives you a fair number of chips, they may have that urge to, bet it all at once on, number 7 on roulette.
Yeah.
Because it's that free hit. And then they lose it all, and it's like, well, you wait 2 hours or an hour or whatever it was for the free timer to be able to get a small sum of chips. Or I just pay $5.
Yeah, and there's been research studies that have shown that people are much easier to spend money when they're not having to actually hand over money, be that buying something online or just purchasing something directly at a store with a credit card. So to them, it's like, it's not that bad. And then they might wind up down the gambling rabbit hole.
Yeah, and then that.
But it's even worse than if you're actually gambling.
That credit bill comes in at the end of the month, and it's like, that there's that many numbers on my bill.
Yeah, but it's even worse, in my opinion, than real gambling, because at least in real gambling, you do have a tiny chance to win big. Yeah. But if you win big in this, you just get fake chips.
Yeah, and the lottery is even more insidious whenever you sit down and think about the odds.
Yeah.
But, hey, it goes to pay for education, right? Gotta love the irony of that. But then again, they don't teach odds in education anyway, or at least in the school system here.
Nope. Most people really don't understand how odds work.
Well, to be fair, our monkey brains don't really start to understand big numbers. It starts to become number salad.
Yeah, well, even for small numbers, though, people really struggle. But
yeah, so there was this great little segment on Penn and Teller's Bullshit where they were talking about numbers and how once you get past a certain point, it becomes kind of an arbitrary thing and not, you can imagine 1 of something, you can imagine 3 of something, 5 of something, then 10, depending on what it is, maybe 100, 1,000, 10,000, and becomes less of a set of things and more of just a word. So the same thing applies to the odds just in general, and maybe that's why our big thing of wanting to see the odds on loot boxes in general is kind of a misnomer, because seeing a 0.01% chance on a loot box, which actually PUBG has several things tying it back to your mobile game, they have to, well, they don't have to, but they publish the odds on at least some of their loot boxes on PC, or all of them, I'm not sure which. And some of the loot boxes have a 0.001% chance to pull something, which you sit down and figure out the actual odds of 0.1, or sorry, 0.001, and you realize, it takes you, several thousand years to statistically get it, without, just pure luck. So, yeah.
Yep. I like to measure objects, or measure large quantities, like turn it into something a little more understandable, like, when you're getting into, like, the 100,000s or the millions. It's like, well, that's like a house. Like, several $100,000. Like, that's a decent home. It's like, okay, this is 4 homes.
But how do you deal with whenever you start reading about government things and see billion or trillion?
Yeah, because that would be like millions of homes. Usually I try and like, honestly, it's really hard to wrap my mind around. Like there becomes a certain point where where your little tricks or my little tricks don't work. So yeah, when it gets to the trillions, I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Because that's unfathomable to
I may have to put
our monkey
I
brains.
may have to put the Penn and Teller thing on the show notes, because it's something that you don't really think about. But he's using the example of he can't use the word M&M, so N and N. And he has a bowl of 1,000 of them. But the thought of 1,000 versus one bowlful, one bowlful wins versus how many individuals.
Yeah, I've probably seen that episode because I like Penn and Teller's bullshit. I think I've seen all of them or most of them, but that's one of those things I watched several years ago and like one long binge run.
Yeah,
I haven't and I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, so I'll put that on the show notes, because it's one of those shows that definitely deserves a good look at for very particular topics. Sometimes I disagree with them. Sometimes they definitely have their own agenda. I mean, they usually have their own agenda, but it's definitely worthwhile, especially on this numbers thing. It's a topic that I think people don't really consider.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to talk about Faeria?
Yeah, I think so. So.
Oh wait, no. Sorry, skipping the Valve one. My bad. Valve removes Steam machines from Steam Storefront.
Yeah, so this is 3 weeks essentially of Steam machines. Kinda. If we tie this into the Atari thing. On April 1st, Valve removed the Steam Machines listings on, the store page, which kind of shows where Steam Machines have gone. Nowhere.
Yep.
The Steam Machine was such... it's an interesting idea that was never marketed. We've talked about that before. And why I think the Atari Vapor Box... assuming it ever becomes non-vapor, is doomed to failure. I wish I hope I'm wrong with that, but honestly, I don't see a good market for it. And this just shows that even Valve can't get it right. And they have a captive audience, but then again, they're typically trying to sell to an audience that has gaming PCs.
Yep. And we don't need those. We don't need Steam machines.
Yeah, what we need is Steam Links.
I have one of those.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about grabbing one. They've been selling them dirt cheap several times. And it seems like they're popular, so maybe Valve has realized that the Steam machine, it's a concept that doesn't quite fit in the grand scheme of things, and the Steam Link, a small streaming-based computer, works a lot better. But you did say before recording that you were able to sell one, so Hey, I think you did better than Valve.
Yeah, a mom who is an acquaintance of mine was wanting to get, or her son was wanting to get into PC gaming last year, and her son's like 9 or 10, and this lady, she's very nice, but she's not technically inclined. So I wasn't gonna try and explain building a PC. I wasn't gonna try and step in and do that for them. So I talked about like what her budget was and what she wanted and what her son wanted, and I actually wound up recommending one of the Steam machines to her. And I mean, I don't remember which one. It was something like $800.
Depending on the Steam machine, some of them were a big ripoff, and some of them were actually really good deals. And this was even before GPUs jumped in price and RAM jumped in price. Ironically enough, wasn't the Alienware one of the better deals?
Yeah, it was.
What bizarro world do we live in?
Yeah. It wasn't the Alienware one, though, because the ones that were the better ones were out of her price range, I believe. And then the cheaper one, like the base level one was something like $500, I think. But it had like an i3 and something like a GTX 950 or 960 in it. And it was just a little bit underpowered for the types of games that her son wanted to play. But yeah, sold a Steam machine last year.
Well, they're better than Valve on selling them.
Yeah, it would
honestly,
seem.
I'm not sure how they would be able to approach this, because outside of just trying to sell them through commercials, which was more down to the individual manufacturer than Valve itself, there's not really a marketplace to do this. Because whenever you're displaying it on the Steam storefront, you're displaying it to the wrong audience for the most part. Unless they're trying to count on word of mouth.
Yeah. I almost bought one of these a couple of years ago. One of them. Because I was going to have to spend quite a bit of money excuse me, to upgrade my PC. And I was like, well, I could just buy one of these Steam machines, one of the higher end ones. And it'll be maybe a little more expensive, but it'll just come, and then I'll have 2 computers, and I can do something with this computer. And then I wound up going with the upgrade route anyways, because there was really no point in buying a Steam machine. Mm-hmm. But now I have 3 computers sitting around me, and a 4th one that I'm getting to work on as a project, so, you know, I got computers coming out my ass.
Well, that sounds like a shitty situation.
Indeed.
But then again,
Indeed.
Is that another one of your kinks?
No, I'm not really into poo all that much.
Well, I was talking about computers in your butt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll put anything in my butt. Just stuff being on my butt is one of my things, you know. So if the computer's up there, that's fine with me. But some of the pages for the individual Steam machines are still up. Like the one for the Alienware is still up, but it
subsection of Steam it was pulled down.
Yeah, and even the ones that are still up, they all now just link to the to an external site.
Well, they mostly did anyway, didn't they?
Some of them did. Some of them did not. Some of them you could like go through all of the customizations and everything on Steam, and it just had the little drop downs like DLC, and you could pick which one you wanted. I think those are the ones, though, that Valve sponsored or commissioned or something.
Yeah, I also remember the Pinion. Remember that? That at first looked like it was from Valve itself. It was
that the weird triangle thing?
That was the handheld one. Or the handheld size, I should say. The little block thing.
I guess I don't remember the Pinion then.
At least if memory serves correctly. But now I'm having trouble finding it because it's a generic term.
Right.
And that's the problem with these, is if they don't catch on, then they just get lost in Google. But yeah, it's just... seeing a bit of a resurgence on this, on these, well, not really set top because, flat screen, but the entertainment center computer again. At the same time, Valve is pulling out of the market, so it's kind of a weird, where are we going with this? And can someone find a market for it? Because that's going to be the real thing. Can someone break through, find this missing piece of the puzzle to pull everything together? Because I do think the idea is sound, but nobody's been able to sell the damn things.
Yeah. I'm still looking for opinion, but I can't find anything.
Maybe I'm misremembering the term, because I remember it being something like pinion. Let me do one more. And no, I'm not finding it. Which is annoying, because it was actually an interesting idea. It was a very, very small computer. It was using some custom parts, and it was able to be upgraded. But hang on. Is this? No, that is not it. Oh, and no, that's not it either. But even though that's a similar size, but also, there's a lot of small computers out there nowadays.
Yeah, there are.
So that's something else that would that these full-blown Steam boxes are having to deal with, is that people that are in the market for a set top, I keep using the term set top because I'm old, but the style of computer, well, just use a Steam Link, because they typically have a strong enough computer already. They're in a weird place in the market. They have to capture a new market share. They have to essentially pull a Nintendo Wii and figure out somewhere outside of the general market. And so far, they haven't done that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that they will at this point. Anything can happen, but I think that they're giving up. Just pushing this one under the rug and moving on.
Moving on to Faeria?
Yeah, just like we're going to. We're going to move on to Faeria.
Yeah,
I'm going to pull you.
Speaking of very, very weird moves, Faeria is going pay to play, or as they put it, buy to play. And I've played Faeria quite a bit, and I have concerns about this move because, they're talking about how they haven't been able to strike a proper balance between paying in and getting free content. And I definitely see that, because they are extremely generous with their free-to-play model, to the point where I was able to buy their first expansion pretty much just playing single-player content without really any issue whatsoever. I was a little bit behind the curve, but not much, and I didn't really play multiplayer anyway, so it didn't matter to me. So I definitely see where they're going to be having an issue, but pay-to-play for a card game? How are they going to run this? Because if they do, we've talked about the idea of a living card game on PC. Are they going to do a living card game? And they've talked about DLC support. So living card game, you get the full set, and DLC to get expansions. That is an interesting and dangerous move, because they're having to deal with that paywall.
Yeah. I hope it works for them, though. I like the idea of a living card game.
Yeah, and I really liked Faeria. It's just, I was more playing it on mobile, because I enjoyed picking up and playing a couple games, and they've actually canceled their mobile version, which is also really weird. They had a functioning mobile game, and they had it limited to Canada and Norway. I was able to get a download of the beta version, and it was working for quite a while until Google, tied down the locations, location-based betas like that. So it knocked me off of that, and they decided that it wasn't working out. They said, "We understand this will be disappointing to some of you. Through our testing observations, gathered data, and extensive internal analysis, we determined that as it is, Faeria is not up to par for modern mobile experience, and we want it to be without major overhauls to its iOS and Android versions. And I just don't see where that's the case. It worked perfectly well. I'm not understand where they're seeing the problem. It's just a head scratcher to me. This entire thing in general. And I'm pretty sure this isn't an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, it doesn't look like an April Fool's joke.
I mean, if it is, then hats off to them for pulling one over on us. But this was announced several days ago. This was announced on the 30th, so a couple days before April Fool's. So I think that's a safe barrier, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
But they basically said that they aren't getting enough money in free to play, and the thing is that we've seen a lot of games go pay to play after being free, and has any of them turned out well? I can't think of a single one.
Yeah, neither can I.
Yeah, I really think that this may be the beginning of the end for Faeria, which is a shame because I really like the concept. I like the deeper card game. For those who don't know, Faeria, which you can still play for free, and if you do before they make the changeover, you do get to keep it. So maybe this is influx of new players for them as well, which is actually a bad thing now. It's a CCG, at least for now it's a CCG, where as you play, you build out a hex grid map. And instead of a straight up battle like in Hearthstone and pretty much every other CCG, it's a turn-based strategy game with a territory control. Depending on your deck composition, you want to summon different lands, and every turn you're able to either place down the land on the hex grid, get extra mana, or draw an extra card. And there's a really in-depth strategic element to it, but it just never took off, and I'm not sure if it's because of the deeper combat, if it's because matches ended up taking a bit longer because of the strategic layer, or if it just never really got out there. But yeah, this is just a complete head scratcher to me.
Yeah, well, I don't really have much to add because I've never played Faeria before. I downloaded it and installed it, and I've intended to play it a number of times, but I've never gotten around to it.
Well, probably should somewhere in the near future if you want to continue playing it without paying.
Yeah. I mean, I wish them the best, but I'm with you. I don't quite see how this is going to work out in their favor. Usually it goes the other way. Yeah. Paid to free to play.
I mean, hell, we saw probably the funniest one is still RoboCraft Royale that came out paid and then within 24 hours went free to play.
Yeah.
But they're talking pretty much about wanting to do monthly content. Or they've been doing monthly content. What we can reveal is that Faeria's next card expansion will come at the same time as the Buy to Play relaunch early this summer. And from then on, they'll be releasing a new content every single month as DLC. Which I could see a plus and a minus to this. For one, you are getting a lot of content, but that could also lead to a lot of power creep and a lot of DLC that is just negated because new stuff comes out. This is this is a bold move and a very dangerous one.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, it really depends on how much single player content they also focus on, because there is a lot of single player stuff. But these games really live and breathe on their multiplayer and their matchmaking, and they haven't really had enough numbers to do proper matchmaking.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll see.
Indeed. So that was your news topic. My news topic, Fortnite removes 30 FPS mode from consoles. So I just thought that this was humorous. There's one line in the most recent patch notes for the game where that they talk about making some optimizations to the console version of the game. And the game has got two modes. It's got basically a graphics mode, which makes everything look nicer, and then a frame rate mode or performance mode, which keeps the game at roughly 60 FPS, but they've managed to make it run at the higher graphical fidelity at 60 FPS. And so they just took the 30 FPS mode out.
But what about the cinematic experience?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. I should have had this prepared. But, professionalism and all that.
As I was rambling about Faeria.
Let's see. Gameplay. Removed 30 FPS mode from Xbox One and PS4. In version 3.4, we made some significant GPU optimization, which improved visual quality, including resolution in 60 FPS mode. And we now feel there's very little reason to play at 30 FPS. And it's got a little note, developer comment. So basically, yeah, why would you play it at less than 60 FPS?
The cinematic experience, of course. Isn't that the bullshit?
PC Master Race.
Isn't that the bullshit that was being touted about for quite a while for 30 FPS locks? Especially on PC versions for a bit. Oh.
Get that cinematic experience, because obviously the human eye can't see above 30 frames a second. Am I right?
Unless you're blind, then it can't see above 0.
But, yeah, I thought that was humorous. And also, duh. I play,
for some games,
Save the
I
World
don't mind a lower frame rate. But it also depends, for one, the speed of the game.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter too much what the frame rate is in, say, a visual novel.
Well, what if I want high frame rate anime boobies?
Well, then just go watch porn.
Yeah, but then I'm limited to 30 there.
There's 60 FPS porn.
Yeah, but then it looks weird.
It does look kind of weird.
Why don't we split the difference, 45?
That was what the Hobbit movies came out at.
I didn't know that.
Actually, I think it was 48. It's 48 is what they came out at, which I liked, but at 48 frames a second, you can see a lot of the makeup work and the props look a little more fake just because you get a crisper image. And so they knocked it back down. But I prefer the higher frame rate.
Yeah, but since when it was a porn?
Oh, there's been several Lord of the Rings themed porns. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I remember one from...
Oh boy, I think I opened up a can of worms here.
Was I in high school? I think I was in high school. And my parents got like the massive 1,000 TV channel package or whatever. And that included a number of pornography channels.
They didn't know about them.
And they didn't know about them.
You did.
And so I watched a lot of really bad knockoff porn movies before I had high-speed internet in like middle school or early high school. I think we got high-speed internet when I was a sophomore in high school. So yeah, somewhere in that period.
And now I remember
there was
flashing back to the South Park episode that was pseudo Lord of the Rings with the porn video.
Yeah, the movie was called, or the porn movie was Lord of the G-Strings. Yep.
Oh, well, I think I know what you're downloading tonight.
Remember that one well. I'm going to Google that right now.
I'm not putting that in the show notes.
Lord of the G-Strings. Yep, this is it. It's got a 3.8 on IMDb.
I'm surprised it's on... No, I take that back. No, I'm not surprised it's on IMDb.
The Female Ships of the String. Excellent. Would this be... No, it's not old enough to be vintage porn. Released in 2003. Anyways. Moving on.
14 years?
Yeah. 14 or 15, depending on exactly when it released. But yes, moving on from that. Was that our last topic?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. And we are overtime. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and cut that.
Being curmudgeon-y about that?
Yeah.
We'll be curmudgeon-y about it another year.
And before we dive into Community Corner, I need to take a quick break. Let's head on over to the Community Corner, where we have... Yeah, it's the Kyle Corner this week, where we have an audio letter from Kyle and a tweet that revolves around Kyle, which is from Kyle. But we'll start with the audio letter first.
Greetings, J. Arthur and Caffeine Rage. This is Kyle coming to you from my recording studio that can move at 50 miles an hour. Yes, it is an in-transit audio letter. Fact of the matter is, I'm not probably going to have time to record something in my quote-unquote studio, so yeah, this is as good as we're going to get. One long take, all bloopers in. So, that having been said, let's motherfucking do this. So, earlier in the week, I made a tweet about math proving a gut feeling that I had right. And that gut feeling was that nuclear is superior to solar in Factorio. Now, every single message board that I've ever been on has always said, well, solar is a build it and forget it sort of thing, whereas nuclear, you need to feed resources. And I'm thinking, all right, well, yeah, that makes sense. I guess solar's the better choice. But then there was that little voice in the back of my brain that said, well, hold on, how is that possibly possible? In the real world, nuclear is way, way more power efficient than solar. So then I went and I did some digging. And yeah, I guess if you want to just put a thing down and forget about it, you can do that. And I guess both are viable. So how do you determine which is better? And the way that I came up with a way to measure this was essentially which one costs more per 40 megawatts. And the reason I'm doing 40 is because that is the smallest reactor that you can build and still get everything out of it. So, my assumptions. You're building a solar field that can produce 40 megawatts. It doesn't really matter how this is set up. It just needs to be big enough to produce 40 megawatts. The nuclear reactor is going to be as small as possible, i.e. it's not just going to have pipes leading all the way across your base in order to get water and steam to where they need to go. It's going to be constructed somewhat efficiently, but other than that, it's going to just have the kind of infrastructure to keep itself going at 40 megawatts basically forever. We're going to also assume that the Kovarex enrichment process isn't in place simply because that basically is like nuclear cheating. So here's how I came up with. Solar panels throughout the day produce an average of 42 kilowatts at any one time, even at night once you average it out. So, if we take a look at what would it take to get 40 megawatts of solar in raw resources, and I'm measuring raw resources in things like copper plates, steel, and any sort of material that is the same between the two of them, i.e. liquid stuff like sulfuric acid. So, the solar field that would be needed to produce one 40 megawatt field is 45,267.5 resources. That's copper, that's steel, and that's iron. So, cool. What does a 40 megawatt reactor cost? Well, 8,125 resources. So, nuclear wins, right? Well, hold on there, Skippy. You also probably want your factory running at night, because that 40 megawatts of solar is only going to be on during the day. So, a quick trip to the Factorio wiki, and we have a value of 20 accumulators per megawatt. Now, accumulators, in order to get 20 accumulators to hold 40 megawatts, you need 89,600 raw resources in order to be able to get the output that you would need over the course of the night. Now, the accumulators charge and discharge at 300 kilowatts. So, that means you're going to need an extra 300 kilowatts per megawatt of solar panels. Wow, that made no sense. You're going to need an extra 300 kilowatt producing solar panels for every megawatt of accumulators that you have. I.e., you're going to need an extra 13,585 resources, and that brings the total for solar up to 148,452.5 resources in order to make one nuclear reactor. So, yeah, that makes sense. Then you also need to look at how much it takes to mine and refine uranium in order to keep the nuclear fuel running. So, let's assume, again, you're just concerned about keeping this thing going and you're not looking at hitting the critical number of 40 bits of uranium-235 in order to keep the Covarex enrichment process eventually going in the future. We're not worried about that. We just want our 40 megawatt reactor online now. So the total raw resources for a centrifuge comes out to 890 resources. So that means we're looking at about 9,000 some. I forgot to write that number down. I'm in my car. I'm not about to do math. It comes out to like 9,000. Point is, it's like 9,000, and there's some math, and I will include a spreadsheet at some point in the future with graphs that you can play with in order to take a look at all of this. So, for each cycle of the centrifuge is 10 seconds, and it has a 0.7% chance of yielding uranium-235, which means every 1,000 cycles it will yield roughly 7 uranium-235. So we divide that by how much time it takes to run a cycle, and we come up with 33.33 minutes, or 33 minutes and 22 seconds. Which, hey, look at that. That's also about how long it takes a reactor to burn through that, so we're good to go. The uranium input required takes sulfuric acid, specifically 10 sulfuric acid for functionally 1 bit of uranium-238 or uranium-235. So let's just simplify that. That means every cycle of 33 minutes and 20 seconds, you will need 10,030 raw materials. That is 10,000 units of sulfuric acid, 10 units of iron, 19 units of uranium-238, and 1 unit of uranium-235. So, how does this work? Well, this basically comes out to an equation which I will sum thusly. 148,452.5 equals the total number of raw resources that it takes to build a centrifuge and that reactor setup that I was mentioning. Then we go ahead and multiply plus X times 10,030. Once we solve for everything and then factor down to the time, we get 13.89 cycles multiplied by 33.33, simplified down into time. So it will take 7 hours, 42 minutes, and 57 seconds for the solar plant to go ahead and beat the nuclear reactor as far as resource efficiency. And it just gets worse for solar from there. Even though you are having to throw more turbines and heat exchangers at a reactor, once you start getting into reactor heating bonuses, you still need a massive solar field. And I'm not sure if there's ever an eclipse point where solar would be better than nuclear, but in a 2-reactor setup, assuming 160 megawatts from your reactor setup and requiring that from a solar field, the new time would come out to 11 hours, 21 minutes, and 52 seconds. Fact of the matter is, that is a long-form way of saying, ha, I was fucking right, everybody who doubted me. So my research has found that nuclear is more viable as an economical energy source in Factorio than solar. And, I mean, of course, that makes sense. It is in the real world, too. Was there a point to this? I don't know. I just did some math, and I thought it was interesting, and whatever math validates a gut feeling I have, I always feel slightly smug and superior to the people who just went with their gut feeling that, well, you don't have to feed it, therefore it's better. I don't know. This has been Kyle. Thanks for listening to my mad ramblings. I will provide a link for the spreadsheet when I get it done. Alright, have a good night, you guys.
Well, thank you, Kyle, for an informative deep dive into Factorio.
I think I went kind of cross-eyed there for a bit. I mean, not lying. I have no idea what he's talking about. Wait, I can say that every week, can't I?
I mean, I get what he's talking about. And I would be lying if I said I hadn't done some experimentation myself, but I didn't do math. Well, I did basic math. I didn't do spreadsheet level math.
3, carry the 2. Start taking off your socks, which I know is blasphemy for you.
Count your toes. I don't know, sometimes I like to be barefoot. It depends. I'm barefoot right now.
Oh my. And I have socks on.
Oh my.
And they're blue.
But yeah, thanks for the informative romp through Factorio. I both appreciated it and also drooled a little.
Yeah, I did have something to talk about from this, actually. And not just the number salad, but more the kind of just nuclear reactors in gaming in general, and them need to be fed like crazy. Isn't the entire point of a nuclear generator, at least in real life, that it could go years between your refuelings?
The nuclear reactors in Factorio...
Well, that, and also they're highly efficient.
Yeah, the nuclear reactors in Factorio actually don't go through fuel very fast. It's a big process
I guess they just
to get...
made it sound like it required a lot more.
No. Yeah, they don't go through fuel very fast. It's a big process to actually make the fuel for them, but compared to the other fuel generation method, which actually uses fuel, which would be burners and the steam engines. I mean, the steam engines use fuel at a much faster pace than the nuclear reactors do. I've actually not done like any sort of math or timing on it, but I would say that burning or the rate at which it uses up nuclear fuel is probably one fuel rod every 5 to 10 minutes, which, you know, compared to real life, that's super fast. But I mean, you're going through 50. Well, depending on what type of fuel source you're burning in your furnaces, anywhere from a couple of 100 to 50 units of fuel in that same time period. I wonder if a Google search will give me the answer.
Well, it's just, I'm just comparing it to like, let's see, I'm trying to find it here. From 1 kilogram of uranium-235, it makes 8. I'm not sure what the abbreviation on that is. Heat that could come from 1 kilogram of coal, approximately 12. Okay, so 1 kilogram of uranium-235 creates 24 million. I guess that's kilowatt hours of heat, versus 8 kilowatt hours of heat generated from 1 kilogram of coal. So yeah, the absurd energy density, and it's something that's always kind of not really rubbed me the wrong way, but kind of just puzzled me on how nuclear reactors are viewed in video games, where they're. I realize there has to be some sort of balance in between how game mechanics work versus real life works, but it kind of gives Dukes an unfair shake, doesn't it?
Let's see. What's the best way to do this math?
For me, it would be poorly.
So, the most feasible fuel source to use would be solid fuel, which produces 25 megajoules of energy per 1 unit. Uranium fuel produces 8 gigajoules per 1 unit. So that's 320 times more efficient, or more fuel that you get out of it. If that makes sense, the way I'm saying it.
Yeah, I guess it's just, the whole energy density, and it's not ever really shown properly in video games. But then again, video games, you would build one nuclear reactor, put a fuel rod in, and you're done.
Yeah.
Because a fuel... here's a better example. 1 kilogram of uranium-235 contains 2 to 3 million times the energy equivalent of oil or coal. Just absurd, huh?
Yeah. Nuclear all the way.
Yeah, gotta have that beautiful clean coal, right?
I mean, no. In game, I prefer nuclear power to solar power. Sometimes I even skip solar power altogether.
I imagine
I usually do wind up
smaller footprint as well.
Oh, much smaller. I usually wind up with a little bit of solar power anyways, just because it's a good way to boost your power without boosting your pollution value, and that sort of mid-game right before you get to nuclear power. The one area which solar power is, in my mind, better than nuclear power is how easy it is to produce solar panels and batteries as compared to how it is to produce nuclear power, the whole system. Just because there's so much more research involved, and then you have to have a completely new production chain to get your nuclear fuel. I mean, once it's working, it's way better, but there's sort of that middle area where you're like, I don't have the power that I need, and I either have to increase my pollution footprint, thereby increasing the amount of alien attacks, or invest in solar, which the amount of power that it produces per the amount of area that it takes up in order to actually produce the power is not very good. That part's not very efficient, but at least you're not creating new pollutants, and it's fairly predictable with how it increases, just because it's a linear power increase. So, in game, there's reasons for using it, there's reasons for not. But in my opinion, like, as soon as I can go...
If you use solar, you don't have all the hippies showing up to protest. Go green, man.
And the bugs are the hippies.
With less tie-dye.
But some people, though, do prefer the convenience of having solar panels. You just throw them out there and forget about them, as long as they don't get attacked by the aliens.
Yeah, but then you have to go dust them every so often. In between eating potatoes.
Indeed. So, yeah, I kind of want to play Factoria now.
I still want to go back to it at some point, but I think I am after it releases.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a good game club game, though.
No.
Besides, we have one big game on the docket already.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But what about that tweet that Kyle sent us?
Okay, the tweet is... Okay, let's dive down the rabbit hole then. Can we really... can we be sure reality is in my head? Is reality our perception of time and space beyond the boundaries of our brain limitations? Do we have a universe of understanding the universe in our heads? Discuss. I don't think I've gone cross-eyed again. And if we're in Kyle's head, can we get some more legroom, please?
Unfortunately, there were no replies to that.
Well, he always
were there?
Sent it very recently, and he sent it at us, so it meant only people that followed both of us could see it.
I'm going to think of a reply and send it later. Maybe we can revisit this tweet next week.
Man.
I did sound a little funny because my cough drop got stuck between my teeth while I was talking.
Yeah, we've talked too much. Both of us.
We have indeed. Do you want to do Discovery Queue this week, or do you want to skip it?
I would still like to do Discovery Queue if you're feeling up to it.
Okay. Nope. I can go through one queue fairly quickly.
Hit the music. And I got something that looks interesting pretty much immediately. Once again.
Go for it.
Long Gone Days. A 2D modern-day character-driven RPG that combines elements from visual novels, shooters, and a dystopian fiction. It's in early access, so it's going to go on the wish list for now, but it's cheap. It looks interesting, at least. I'm not too sure about the overworld art style, though. It's not quite pixel arty, but it's... Yeah, not... It's a very weird art style. It has some very interesting elements in it, though. So it's definitely worth a look. When did this release? It released last week, so not a lot of time with it yet. So we'll have to see if this goes through early access well. Looks like some clunky menus and movement according to some reviews, but overall not too bad at looking. Oh, God.
I got one. Train Valley 2. It's a cute train puzzle game. And I mean, one, I have to get this for myself, and two, I have to get this and play with my son. Because he loves train games. I'm not really sure if there's anything to say about it. It's just a really simple, sort of grid-based, or it looks grid-based, train game. And you're doing some puzzles and trying to get the stuff where it needs to go. Train Valley...
Electric Boogaloo.
Okay, so this is more of a puzzle game. At least the first one was more of a puzzle game, because I've played the first one. And it was... You built the train tracks, but then it was basically get thing A to... from point A to point B. So it says this one, though, is a Tycoon puzzle game?
So more management based?
So I don't know. Maybe. It's only $10. If there wasn't a certain Mech Commander game coming out in less than 3 weeks, I might just buy this right now. Hell, I might just buy it anyways.
Oh,
I'll think about it.
I'm still building up resources. Looks like I sold something else, though, if my wallet balance is correct. So, I got something else. I'm still early in my queue. Golem Gates. A RTS/card game. Golem Gates blends elements of real-time strategy and card battle. Collect cards, called glyphs, containing your forces and power. Strategically weave them into a deck and prepare them for battle, then unleash them into a streamlined, fast-paced battle. Very interesting. It really depends on if this is single-player focused or multiplayer focused, though, because these games never really take off if they're multiplayer focused. Let's see, this is by Laser Guided Games, which only has a handful of games out, so I'm not sure about them. It doesn't look that bad, though. Graphically, I mean. It's your pretty much bog standard sci-fi style. But, yeah, it has a high graphical fidelity, so it doesn't look cheap.
Yeah, that showed up in my queue while you were talking about it.
Looks like it's getting pretty good praise all around. So that's going to be something to look for. It's in the sort of mid-tier range on indie games. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out.
I got one. Equa Magic, the Gala Show of Horses. So the reason this game appeals to me is because it says, magnificent horses and glittering costumes. Become a star in the Gala Show of Horses. Unique horse show simulation with breathtaking horse dressing, grandiose costumes, and stage sets. I want to look fabulous on a horse.
Fabulous or fabulous?
And for only $10, I can look fabulous on a horse. And I'm all about that, because when I ride horses in real life, it just doesn't look right because I'm fat. It's just a big blob of fat rolling around on top of a horse.
What you need is a Clydesdale.
My grandmother used to own a couple of Clydesdales, but after my grandpa died, she got rid of them. So I was like 10 the last time I was next to a Clydesdale, and those things are fucking huge, especially when you're 10. But yeah, I've ridden horses a number of times before. It's been a while. I don't like riding horses. I don't really like animals.
Having your junk repeatedly hit?
Yeah, that's no fun.
So, how about something that may be fun, depending on how it turns out? I got another one. Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age. I've never played a Dragon Quest game outside of maybe the original, only a little bit at an acquaintance's house. And it's one of those that I never really remembered the name of until I saw, pretty much the bog standard slime enemy at some point later. Like, oh, that's what that game was. This really depends on how Square Enix handles this, because Square Enix has been all over the fucking place on their ports, and this doesn't release for another 5 months. So, this is going to be long term. And I have to say, maybe it's just me. Jared, go look at the screenshots for this game. Look at screenshot number 3. It just looks so weird. The world versus the characters. It looks like they've pasted the characters into an actual photo.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. I've played a couple of Dragon Quest games before.
Yeah, maybe it's
I
just
like them.
The characters have this anime styling to them, but then they went photorealistic for the world, and it's just a weird juxtaposition. But it really depends on how they handle this, because, Square Enix, well, they talked about having to fix Chrono Trigger, because they completely fucked up Chrono Trigger. Granted, I don't think this is a port, is it? Is this a new game, or is it a port? I don't follow the Dragon Quest games at all.
I'm not sure. I don't follow them either. I think the last Dragon Quest game I played was 8 or 9. And this is 11, so... Technically, it could be more than that, because I don't know if it's Dragon Quest 11 Echoes of an Elusive Age. Just like
looks like
a sub-game or something.
It is a port. It was released last year on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo DS. So this is a port, so it really depends on how they handle the port. And also which version we're getting. Because that's another thing. But, something to keep an eye on. I misread the title of this. I'm not going to put it on the list because it's a completely crap. It's mostly negative, so But it's My Little Farmies, and at a glance, I read it My Little Furries. It's like, what?
I'd be all about that.
Okay. Next one was an interesting one. I must get the good discovery queues these days, because I'm only halfway through.
Yeah, I'm already done with my queue.
One Deck Dungeon. This is looks like a dice-based roguelite. Almost tabletop ish on its presentation. But then you put them in some sort of box for attacks. So, I've played a few mobile games like this where you're rolling dice and then you have to match particular icons to do certain attacks. So, this isn't a new thing, but it's very, very basic in its presentation. But it could work out, depending on just how they handle it and how they balance it, of course. It's in early access, $15. Interesting. See, the hit roguelite adventure. I'm assuming this is a mobile game. Go search that for me while I continue on, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's
one deck dungeon.
One deck dungeon. I mean, they say the hit roguelite adventure that captures all. So they act like it's already been out. So it sounds like a mobile game.
Something just fell down, either outside or in the kitchen.
This game has you written all over it.
Looks like it's a board game. Like a physical board game that now has a digital release on Steam. I don't see it on mobile anywhere, though. I'm double checking, though. I'm actually going to search the stores in case a result didn't
Meteor
come up.
60 Seconds. Meteor 60 Seconds is a simple form, fun, comic-like action game that simulates your life if there was a meteor hitting towards Earth and you had 60 seconds left to live and you're doing random shit. So, yeah, basically punching people, streaking, that sort of thing. It's free to play. So I'm not sure if they're doing any monetization or if this is just them getting word out, but has to get some sort of traction to pop up on my discovery queue right now. It's supposed to be somewhat a funny game. And it doesn't look like it's complete cancer art-wise.
Well, that's always good to hear.
I'm getting all sorts of good stuff. My choice for end of the year discovery queue is going to be a tough one. Exiled Kingdoms. Roam freely through a huge open world with dangers, ancient secrets, and adventure. The old school RPG with a challenging an old school action RPG with a challenging environment. So very retro looking. It looks like it's from the late 90s. But that doesn't really mean that much these days. Especially with things like Wasteland 2 and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So definitely interesting if you're into CRPGs, especially open world ones. But don't worry, only 3 left. And that one's shit, I think. Yeah. That one's shit. And last one doesn't look that good. So, yay, we're done. We just skipped the music.
Woohoo! And entered the part of the podcast where I go first. If you want to see me on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist, and the new content this week is very light, some more Kerbalcast archives, and that's about it, because it was Easter, and I was gone from Friday to Monday at my parents' house. And usually during the weekends when I write stuff, if there's writing, and then record.
If there's recording.
If there's recording. So nothing new this week on that front. Aside from Divinity, which I haven't scheduled the one for tomorrow, so I should do that.
Yeah,
it's on
probably not
YouTube,
a bad idea.
so that will be easy to do. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at JMA4707. I tweet about all kinds of things. And if you want to watch me stream games on Twitch or see the broadcasts that I put up, such as reruns of this show, where you can go live and comment about things that we're saying in real time, and then I'll go back and I'll look at them.
Wait, you go back and look at them?
I do that. I do. You can find that over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. Also, if you want to be my friend on Steam, you can send a friend request to jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from you. So far, all lovely people.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, or leave it in Twitch chat for him to hear, the password for this week is Booby. Booby.
Very pertinent.
For freaking content in like 6 months.
Yeah.
So while your channel is winding down, mine is returning to full power because I've replaced Civilization, which turned into the mid-game slog turned even worse. I just had bad map, and I didn't want to re-roll and restart what I did for 4 or 5 episodes, which that's just how Civ works sometimes, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Especially whenever you're playing a very map-dependent civilization like the Incas. I was just having bad luck with them, and really good placement for their unique building was either taken up by natural resources that were duplicates, and really nobody was able to trade because nobody really had resources. I just had a bad map. Or, I was planning on going to war potentially, which negates the whole trading thing in general. So I ended up starting up Steamworld Dig 2. I was looking for a Metroidvania. I was about to pull the trigger on a different one. Then I got a review key for Steamworld Dig 2. It's like, I'll try it out, and did my test recordings and actually really enjoyed it. And I have 1 episode out right now. By the time this releases, we'll have 2, and I have a couple more already in the can, and just need to be rendered down and made watchable. Which by made watchable, I'm not sure if there's enough editing in the world for that, but I'll try. Or I'll just leave it uncut and have all my stupid chattering away in it. RimWorld is still ongoing, as per usual. That's actually the first Let's Play series I work on whenever I'm working on them. It's my highest priority for them. We have actually a major battle over the next couple of episodes, or the last couple of episodes, depending on when you're listening to this, So, major battles coming up, a lot of stupidity, and I get foamed. Which, that makes a lot more sense in context, by the way.
Well, it sounds sexy.
It's not. But then again, you haven't shown up yet. But hey, as long as you're not a nudist, you'll be fine. And of course, Divinity's still ongoing. Sunday Sampler, depending on what I get, we'll have to see what that does because it's been a kind of a slow week this week. But I have backlog, so I should be able to produce something. I hope. And that is about it. You can find all of that over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or if you wish to see me tweet about my surprise Kinder Egg and actually getting Ashes to respond, which was humorous.
Nice.
Because he does a lot of blind bag and Kinder stuff. And occasionally the grocery store, well, every week the grocery store near me has a freebie that they give out. And this last week was Kinder Eggs, essentially the U.S. version of Kinder Joys, which is the U.S. version of Kinder Eggs, only completely different. It's the same basic idea, egg-shaped thing. But to get past U.S. law, do you know the reason why Kinder Eggs are illegal?
Is it because they have toys inside and it's a choking hazard or something like that?
It's illegal to have a non-food item in a food, which actually gets in trouble with Mardi Gras because of king cakes.
Yep, those have little baby Jesus inside.
Yeah, just don't choke on your Jesus. But they get around it by having essentially a chocolate pudding or chocolate spread in one half of a plastic egg and in the other half the toy. And they kind of cheat and they use the packaging as the toy. So I got a boat and I tweeted it out and Ashes responded.
Nice.
So there's my 5 minutes of fame. But if you was to see me tweet about random shit I get or me just talking nonsense in general, you can find me over at Gaming with CR on the Twitters. And well, since I got distracted at the end of the community corner, it's probably a good idea to give out the email address, isn't it? VGLpodcast at gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or questions. Or you just tweet us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. You can also help pay for this absolute madness, patreon.com/VGL Podcast, which has helped pay for our Podbean account. VGLpodcast.podbean.com, which hosts our RSS feed if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch. Or you just find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever Jared has shoved us that isn't up his butt. And we are now off Twitch. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and Doobly Doo is our Discovery Cues music by the same artist. You can find his work at incompetech.com, and
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye now.
We usually have some sort of ending spiel now, but I'm kind of blank on what to do. Doobly doo?
Bye-bye.